Whoever shows up, shows up.
All right, let's see. I got new intro. Steve made an intro. Let's see if this works.
Do that. How did you get by the laser field in the Great Hall?
Aha. The laser fields. Well.
All right.
Well, very nice. I like it.
I mean, it's better than I could do. I could put up a piece of toilet paper. So
Just do that with your name written on it. Perfect. I love it. Yeah, just a piece of toilet paper. And besides, with the way the world's going, that's going to be worth its weight in gold soon.
Yes, that's right. We can all cash in on the toilet paper. I didn't get in early enough and buy toilet paper for resale, but at least I didn't run out.
Oh, you weren't one of those people getting like 10 packs of the toilet paper at Costco or whatever it was. Those ridiculous people.
No. I think it was like the Chinese that were running around and like, or some little group that was buying up all the toilet paper to cause the psychological trauma. And everybody's like, oh my God, you mean there's no toilet paper? And then the news is blasting it out, no toilet paper. And, you got grannies shitting their pants. And, well, they got diapers anyway, so I guess I suppose it doesn't much matter. But
hey, if they're shitting their pants, then that's the perfect reason they need the toilet paper in the first place. But yeah, when this was going on, my father-in-law decided to stop by. He's like, here, I just got you a pack from Costco just so in case anything happens, you got extra. That's still hanging around my house. And this was like a month and a half ago. I've never gotten in at Costco before, and I'm still like, holy crap, man. It's never ending. It's a gift that keeps on giving.
Well, it's their biggest seller, eh? Like that's their biggest moneymaker is toilet paper.
After what's happened recently, I can believe it.
Well, no, even prior to this, that was their big ticket item that they had. Always was their toilet paper. That's the number one item they sell. Apparently, for a singular item is toilet paper.
Damn, I had no idea about that. Just such a big store with so much stuff. I never would have thought that that's what they sell on. But all right, then.
Busy in the bathroom. But if the grannies had to, they didn't shit in their pants, right? Mm. Then they could resell those diapers to wear on their face.
Perfect. I like it. Oh, boy.
Oh, okay. We got some good people in here. Let's say hello to everybody. Hillbilly, Ian, Wheezy.
Hello.
Sorry?
I don't want to say hello.
You don't want to say hello?
I just expect these people to show up to be graced by my presence, all right?
Well, you see, I have to have like a silly intro to try and catch attention. I'm not cool. See, you have the sweatshirt, you have the merch. I don't have anything.
That's true.
Be sure to buy your merch over at Just My Stupid Opinion. The link is in below. So, yeah.
Does that mean I have to actually start making merch? Because this is the only sweater I have.
By the way, you're giving me a cut of that, too.
All right, sweet. You can have that cool $2.
Awesome. Well, that's not too bad. That's not too bad.
It can make up for what I did to you the other night.
I don't know how many people are. What did you do to me the other night?
Oh yeah, so funny story for everybody who's curious.
What are you? Yeah, no, that is absolutely not. You don't have anything to make up for it. It's well, you tell it.
So the other night, it's about midnight, right? And I had been on the phone a little bit earlier with Rage in the Cage, and then we had to talk. So I gave you a call at like midnight, and we're talking for a while. And then it's somewhere around 2:00 in the morning. We're going over everything that had to do with the Nova Scotia shooting. And Seamus is like, all right, I think I've got this figured out. And he starts going into it. And he's talking, and then suddenly he doesn't hear anything from me. And I'm pretty sure that all he heard on the other end of the phone was just...
No, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything, and I was like, then I started to laugh, and I was like, hello? And then and I didn't hear anything at all, and then I hear... I was like, okay, I really must have pissed him off, man. I went on too long there.
All it was is I had worked early in the morning that day, and then like I was just like, yeah, I was just tired, but we were talking everything. I didn't even realize, and then I woke up the next morning, like my alarms went off for work again. I just checked my phone. It's like a text at 2:15. I guess I bored you to sleep.
Maybe my theory wasn't so good. I don't know. There's a COVID coming. Maybe it wasn't that good of a theory. I don't know. It wasn't clearly catchy.
No, you were good. Don't worry about that. That was all me. That was just me.
So how are you doing tonight? Oh, Tammy loves your hat, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Tammy. Yeah, actually, the only reason I broke this out was because I think I left my other one, my Canada hat. I think I left that at work today. So at one point I got home, I was like, I always wear my hat. So I got home and suddenly it wasn't there. But yeah, no, I've had this one for a while. Actually, I think this is one a few years ago. I went to Comic-Con here in Ottawa, and I got it there.
Is it a bit felty? It looks like it has some...
Yeah, it is a little bit felty. It's like probably fake suede or whatever it is they use on hats. Good. Oh, thank you. Good. It's comfy. It's a good one.
Okay, so what have you turned up anything new in the past little bit? There's been a few things.
Well, I did talk a little bit about on the live stream that I did, but I found it a little bit interesting that it's been pretty much confirmed now by other witnesses that the police are well aware of who Wortman was, because it was reported on by one of his neighbors. It was a woman who used to be in the military, and right. She ended up saying that she became aware early on when Wortman moved into the area of his domestic violence, that I think it was his girlfriend ended up coming over because he was beating her, and she actually reported him to the police in 2013, and yet nothing was done about this. And at least my theory on it too is, if she was aware of this, then many people are aware of this, and if she reported this to police, she was not alone. There were other people that reported this to the police. And in fact, despite the fact she was in the military, apparently she was so freaked out by this guy that it made her move out of the Portapique area.
Yeah. So it is very interesting story. Let's see, what would that be? More common law, girlfriend, assault. Where's that here? Of course, I don't have it on my...
And when we kind of dissect this a little bit, there was one more thing I came across. It was from yesterday, I think.
Oh no.
What is it?
Oh, this is not good. You knew this had to be coming. Some jackass asked it at one of the press conferences. Oh no.
Yep, that was only a matter of time till that happened to come up. I'm surprised, actually, it took so long. It's been almost a month since the shooting, and they now are just coming out with he is a woman hater and a misogynist. This isn't like shooting that ended up taking place in the oh crap. I think I know the shooting you're talking about. The shooting that took place in the all girls school in Montreal.
Yes, Polytechnique.
Polytechnique, yeah. It's not like the shooting in Polytechnique where he literally singled out the women and then started to kill them. Or the shooting that took place in the States a few years ago by the same kid, shot up a school, but he was targeting specifically his female classmates. So, but of course, they always got to jump on this. They've always got to turn it into he was a white supremacist or he was a woman hater. I can't say I'm really surprised that this finally came up. I'm just surprised it took so damn long.
Yeah, and back to that story, which if I get my head out of my ass, I'll find here. Why is this story coming out now? I'm finding a couple of the details that are coming out rather interesting that they come out now. And that would be the person from Ontario, and God bless her soul for coming forward. I think it's very interesting, probably because she's not in Nova Scotia. That's why she's able to talk, because nobody in Nova Scotia seems to be talking. But it took her a month to say something, which is weird. Maybe she was talking to the media and the media was just like, no, we don't want to listen to your stuff. And the other one was the photographs from inside the garage and all of this stuff. Like, they just suddenly appeared. Of course, we all know that the garage and everything has been burned down for a month now. Like, and when I looked at the captioning on those photos, it just says in brackets, single brackets, not parentheses. No, none of that. Come on, man, I can't break my old habits. It says supplied. Who's supplying it?
Quite a good question. And to answer your first one about why is it coming out now, I think the real reason is because they knew that give it enough time, how many people are really looking into this situation right now? I mean, people usually in these sort of shootings want to catch the news on it within the first couple days or so. Well, the first couple weeks, I'll say, actually. So they kind of want to know what happened, who was it, why did it happen? And once that's been satisfied, then they more or less sort of fall off the story. And we can even tell because, when this first broke, there was a lot of interest in the story, but that has started to die off, especially over the last 2 weeks or so. So I think the main reason that they're waiting for a lot of this information to come out is because it's going to go fly under the radar for most people, and only people who are still interested in the story, still looking for the loopholes, they're the only ones that are really going to pay much attention to it. I mean, if most people, if they see that story, like I think it was from the CBC about the neighbor who said that she reported Wortman to police, probably just see that headline and keep going on, oh, okay, I guess he got reported on, so on. And they're also not going to remember a lot of the details because we're like, what we're doing here is we're trying to catch the RCMP in their lies, which we've done several times. Most people probably don't even remember that press conference where I think it was Leather ended up saying it's like, oh, we didn't know who Wortman was. So for them, they're not going to put the pieces together.
Yeah. So the what are your takes on what these articles said about the girlfriend, the neighbor in 2013? What was her name? Brenda Forbes. Mm-hmm. Reporting to the police, which again, a lot of these things, it's I don't want to do like we told you so, mm-hmm. but we did tell you so, right? All of the people here have been saying the same shit for a long time, and there's been a list we've been putting together of times that he's had interactions with the police. And, now that you're going to come out and say a month later, oh yeah, by the way, somebody did report him for firearms and did notice him beating up his girlfriend. Along with 3 other male witnesses who failed to say anything at all. What's your take on is it because it's been a month and they figure, well, we can just throw this piece out there now and nobody's going to pay it any mind?
I think so. I mean, I think that's also one of the reasons that they've gone back. They did this pretty soon after the shooting, within a couple of days, but they went back to all of this COVID nonsense. All the stories suddenly are once again about COVID and quarantine. It's at least over here, I don't think it's much of a coincidence that these stories are coming out right as the premier ended up announcing that, you know, Ontario is going to start to reopen. You know, suddenly that's going to get buried underneath the news about the reopening, COVID, the vaccine. So I think it is purposely done. I think they wait for a more interesting news cycle to come around just so they can drop these in. On top, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, for instance, this woman who reported, the neighbor, Brenda Forbes. I wouldn't be surprised if she told this to the news within a couple days of the shooting actually taking place, but they sat on the story for a whole month or so. So the whole point was trying to bury it. Because again, it was around that time that Leather came out and said, "Oh yeah, we didn't know who he was." Well, if he says that, and then you're putting this out, that's going to contradict them immediately. But now that's what Leather said is out of the minds of most people. So I think it was deliberate. And I wouldn't be surprised what the information is coming out now, like the pictures that we saw, the new pictures that were released a few days ago. Probably
I was trying to find that article. Do you happen to have that article handy?
I can do you one better.
It, I think.
Did I? I think I did.
Because I know that Kage had a point that I think you should share with us.
Yeah, no problem. All righty. Let's see here. All right, so I'm just dropping in our chat. That is the article. And for everyone else interested, I dropped it in the main chat. And I also, because the pictures that come out were from the global news, like it was a video actually. I also downloaded that.
So here we can see, and again, that was day one, where Tara said the guy's man cave was a Montana's bar, and even though it sounds, you know, a little bit out there, sure enough, it was totally and entirely true. Here we got the High Life sign. I mean, this was basically just a bar. The lodge. There's all the bikes. We don't see the Easy Rider in here. Now, this picture here.
Quite an interesting picture for sure.
Do you want to? Yes. Share with us what Kage's observation was, because I missed that, and it's a great point.
So Kage, Raging in Kage, he was the one who pointed this out to me, so full credit for this goes to him. But we were talking about this, and he's great for seeing those little details. And one thing that when I saw this, completely oblivious, but you can see in this photo, is if you look through the back windshield, you can see that he's got access right there. It seems to be sort of left of the middle, is I believe it's a radar gun that sits and points backwards on there. Mm-hmm. So that would be an official RCMP equipment that they ended up having. And then off to the right over here, there's that little box there, which seems to be a roadside assistance box. So maybe some flares and some other things you would have in case you're stopped on the edge of the road, like a car's broken down and you're helping out. So this is part of the equipment that they were talking about that he had. Now, if you're part of if you're just buying a mock-up vehicle, you should not have access to this sort of equipment. A civilian cannot just go and get a police standard radar gun and have it mounted on their rear view like that. But somehow had access to this. So this goes along when they were saying that he had access to the quote unquote mock-up vehicle when he had the uniforms. They also said RCMP equipment. This would be part of the equipment. And this is not cheap equipment either. This is highly sophisticated, highly expensive stuff. So how did he get access to that? Another thing that Rage in the Cage was pointing out was that when it came to the decals on the side, the decals there are the coloring of it. You cannot get those decals even for a mock-up vehicle in that coloring. That is specifically used for RCMP vehicles. And you would need, I believe he was talking about, usually they have a code when it comes to these decals. So it would prove an RCMP officer. Yes. Well, he apparently had access to this. Yeah. And in the RCMP updates, they were talking about the business and who did the decal, and as well as the person who did the decal itself. And it said that they were unaware that this was not for the RCMP, that they're cooperating with the RCMP, which means they didn't name who these people were or the business, which means that either somehow Wortman did have a mock-up vehicle in which he put this decal and his coloring on the side, and he had to have like the codes in order for people to know that he was an RCMP, or it's an authentic RCMP vehicle.
Yes.
And you think that, I think that, Rage in a Cage thinks that. It's too accurate. It's right down to every single detail. It's a perfect replica of an RCMP vehicle. And I don't think you can be that good. I don't care how much of a collector you are. I don't care how much you have a fascination you have with them. The point is these are items you cannot get as a civilian, but Wortman had them, which to me points to a real RCMP vehicle.
Yeah, no, and I totally agree about the decals, and that was I think we had that article somewhere back in my stuff. It's where the person who does detailing and quote, he calls it kitting out RCMP vehicles and other police organizations vehicles. So he that's his job. And he said when he looked at this was laser perfect. And he said that right early on. He said in order to do this, it has to be somebody who does it for the RCMP. Or, you know, and he didn't add the second part, but I think that's where we're going with this is the fact that this cruiser was in fact just a real cruiser. It was never a mock-up like they like to say. I think things were disappearing from the RCMP stores department, and frankly, I think a car disappeared. And one has to ask themselves, where is he getting all this shit? Because I haven't looked into the radar gun part of this at all. But I was on again today and I was looking for RCMP cruisers because there was some ridiculous website once again saying, oh, of course, you can just go and buy a police interceptor. You don't even need to buy a used one. You can go and buy a brand new one. It's always this, they got to get ahead of the arguments. Or play catch up to things that say people over here are uncovering, and so they said, oh well, you can just of course buy an RCMP cruiser, a police interceptor, brand new. Like, don't worry about it. And I'm like, I don't think you can. And I looked around. Maybe I'm missing something, but I couldn't find anything. And then I went once again to find police interceptors for sale. I did find one in Canada on Auto Trader, and it was a 2013, and the front end of the car was totally destroyed. But of course, everything was removed off of the car. There wasn't decals, there wasn't there wasn't the radar, there wasn't lights, there wasn't sirens, none of this nonsense.
Yeah, for like the decals on the side, I believe it's the design, but especially the color coding that they use is specific for the RCMP. So you can't just get that. They might give you possibly the same design, but no way they're going to give you the same color scheme for it. But on top of that, the other reason I don't believe that you can just buy an RCMP vehicle or a police vehicle outright like that is because you would see somebody on the road driving that. They may not be widespread, but you would have civilians driving that around. But the point is you don't. They have
for Christ's sake, every drug dealer would drive these.
Yeah, no
Hello?
kidding.
Seriously, every drug dealer would be driving a police cruiser if that was the case. Because somebody's going to come in and be like, "Oh yeah, do you mind if I could just have you make me up some RCMP decals? Don't worry about it. Nobody's going to know about it." No, I think the person's going to be on the phone right away and be like, there's somebody here asking for an RCMP decal on their car.
Oh, yeah, no kidding. Absolutely. And I mean, you would even have like civilians who are trying to drive this because, hey, you don't have to worry about the red light cameras anymore. Then it's not like they're going to fine you if you're an RCMP vehicle or anything.
Yeah, just drive with no plate.
There you go. Apparently, it's no big deal from what we've learned from this whole situation.
Mr. Moneypenny, sorry, I'll just throw this in there before I quickly forget, and please continue, Adrian. But Mr. Moneypenny, great eyes, noticed the bike here in the corner.
Oh yes, the Easy Rider bike.
I missed that. So anyway,
yeah,
continue.
I wasn't completely sure if that was the Easy Rider bike, but it does kind of look similar to it. But yeah, definitely a good eagle eye you got there. Yeah, so when I look at all this, and again, they're trying to claim that you can just buy outright a vehicle like this. If anything, it would be illegal to have for the emergency lights on top. If anything else, even if they let you have the design, there's no way they're letting you have the sirens and the emergency lights on top.
No.
Because that would be going too far. You know, people using it to go through red lights, people using it to, you know, get people out of the way on a busy road or something. It's just, there's no way they can allow this. So with everything that we have, I heavily lean towards that this was an authentic RCMP vehicle that he got his hands on. Not sure exactly how he did it, but somehow he managed to pull it off, which begs the question, how the hell did this guy get his hands on a vehicle like that if he's not a cop?
Right.
I mean, that was already kind of the question, but it's even more when we think about it in this context. Yeah.
So this was the one police interceptor that I could find on Auto Trader, and it's a 2014. And then the other part there that you're mentioning more about the equipment. Give me a second here, and I'll see if I still got that page open, because the police say that she escaped through the cage in the back of the car, right? Mm-hmm. So I got to thinking, and I'm like, well, where do you buy a cage for your car? And so I actually did look around, and I did find a couple of dealers, but they're both out of the United States. And I frankly don't think that police cages, you know, you're like, go down to the border and try and bring one through. I don't know if they're going to be too pleased about that, or that they'll ship them, you know.
I highly doubt it. I mean, it seems like one of those things you're trying to import would at least raise some suspicions. And even that was something that Rage was talking about, is that when we were looking at the original photo that was tweeted out by the RCMP, that being Wortman's car, he was like, again, he's got such a good eye on what to look for. Through what the reflection on one of the back windows, he's positive that it was not even one of those standard cages, like metal cages, but he thinks it's the new, like it's like a plexiglass cage. And the main reason is just so like they're using it these days is because you know, there's a history of people when they're being arrested to like smash their face against the cage and make it look like the cops ended up beating them up in order to get off or get a better deal, whatever it happens to be. So they moved over to this plexiglass where it will at least do less damage. And those are apparently very new within the last couple of years or so, since cops really started using those.
Right.
So it's unlikely, even if he could purchase a cage, it's unlikely that he could purchase this plexiglass cage. And it's more likely that this is more a newer vehicle that he bought somehow. He ended up buying it, or at least coming into possession of it. And again, if it's hard to see in the images, but for what Kage knows about cop cars and, you know, the way he can spot things, I'm willing to believe that he's right on that it was the plexiglass cages.
Well, it was because they did admit that.
They did?
RCMP, yep, the RCMP's new issue press release, they said the gas cans, which we totally called quite a long time ago, the gas cans. He's driving around with gas cans in his car. Oh, yeah, he's got lots of accelerant at his house. I honestly think, like, you know, I don't want to be tinfoily, but I really do think that they're listening to what the fuck is going on over here, because, you know, there's just a whole bunch of people that are doing a lot of research, and we're coming up with a lot of shit that the news doesn't come out with. And then the RCMP has to come along and answer it at some point, because there's going to be more and more people that are going to be asking questions, and especially if suits are going to start being filed. So the other part to that was that they did say, yes, she escaped through It was this wonderful article I found out of McLean's, and I did a show on it the other night. Amazing article, lots of facts in there. There were police officers off the record speaking, and they said, again, the same things that we've been saying. They left them in there for hours. There was shooting going on. This business about basically nobody came forward and said, you know, this 1035 stuff that they've been throwing out there is absolute horseshit. But, it was unsaid. It was to be understood. There was shooting going on in the premises for hours, and that there were insubordinate people who went in. They were ordered to sit at the end of the road and wait, and for, the armored personnel cruiser carrier, right? It was funny because I was reading the article, and I just read the first little bit of it, and I came across the fact that there was one police officer. I'm like, I gotta go live with this right now. And so then I was just reading through it together with everybody online. And I mean, it was a fantastic article. I'm going to get the link, and where was that here? Balls on the Decals stuff. Let's see here. Where was that? I had the hospital, multiple patients. Okay, I think it's no.
Well, at the very least, this to me though is, again, because this is why I've never come out and said that all cops are bad or anything like this, because it's proven through what these people were saying that there were good cops on the premises, because these are the ones who defied orders to go in when there were people in danger. The point is, though, is that a large number of them didn't refuse those orders and were willing to let those people die. Plus, that means that the people upstairs, were willing to let those people die.
Yeah. Yes. And that was kind of what I was saying to you on the phone the other night, is that I think this was the article, Nova Scotia, the mistakes that they may have made. And I'm telling you, it was just an amazing, amazing article. And this to me, and I hope I'm communicating that well, or have been, is that from the word go, the very word go, 10:01, they get the phone call, Portapique shooting. That's when it all blows up. And the police are like, oh shit, it's Wortman. Even before they get there at 10:26. 10:26, they get down there. The guy's walking down, who was shot by and he's with his girlfriend. And he says, I was shot by a man in a cruiser. And it was immediate. And the RCMP, of course, sat on all these facts. And, I put together a little thing today. Of course, I want to throw all kinds of other stuff in there. But showing the Twitter line, because the Twitter line does not match. Sorry, I'll drop the link in the chat for everybody for this article. And I would really recommend reading it. And this is somebody I think that we should be speaking to, Stephen Mayer. I think we should get a few journalists together that seem to be good people. And this man, he's coming out and he is speaking the truth. And so, 10:01, they're 10:26, they're running across this guy, and we're supposed to believe, well, he just left by 10:35. Well, that's horseshit. Vehicles aren't 4x4s. They don't drive out of there. He's burning down five locations and 3 vehicles on Portapique Beach Road over a 5-kilometer radius, driving up and down the road with gas cans and shooting 13 people, shooting and killing 13 people, plus the fire deaths. The fire deaths are really interesting. So that means he has to subdue. Thanks, Ian. Wow. I don't like to pump myself, but that's really nice of you. He has to subdue these people and bind and gag them, and then start their house on fire with accelerant that he's getting from his car. He's hunting down Ellison in the woods. This is simply, and driving up and down the road. And the police are going to sit there and say to us, well, we didn't see him. We didn't know anything. And he left. And this all happened within 34 minutes. Bullshit. So one of the facts that came out, sorry to be long-winded on that, but one of the facts that came out was that the girlfriend and Wortman had a disagreement about a video call that he had with a female earlier in the night, who funnily enough, I believe it's the woman in Cape Breton, who somebody wrote me about and said that their house was surrounded in Cape Breton. And I think that's the woman that they're referring to. That person hasn't been mentioned in the media yet, but I think that's what they're talking about. And that they got in this fight at the party, went home, apparently went to bed. Wortman woke up and beat her up, handcuffed her, and then shot at her to get her to go into the car, like shooting at her feet, right? Move, And so she did, and she apparently got out through the plexiglass divider, which somebody a little while earlier, great question. How do you get through the plexiglass dividers? I don't think the police make these things wide enough for people to go through, or openable on the other end. I don't know. Maybe it was open.
I can't imagine how she pulled that off. I mean, again, without seeing her, I also don't know how skinny she is. So maybe, but it sounds really unlikely to me. Because again, the whole point is to keep the person back there, so they're not going to build it so someone is able to fit through like that. If I had to guess, it's probably more or less a solid piece, and maybe like either a small window or maybe like actually some cross-sectional area in order to speak through and get some air through.
Yeah, so where was that? Yeah. I had the other page here of the there is a small window, but I don't think that this, and plus she's got handcuffs on.
That was going to be my other point.
They say when he went back in the house, she slipped the cuff off her wrist and escaped the car by the sliding through the plexiglass divider. So right again, Kage, right on. Between the front and back seats. She fled into the woods where she hid until morning, which, I mean, again, that seems a bit preposterous given that Clinton Ellison got hypothermia. But Kage was absolutely 100% right. So where is he getting these cages from?
One thing too is you said that she went to sleep, right? And then he woke her up and this happened?
Right. That's what the article says. I mean, they must have gone to bed early, went to the party. I guess he just got very drunk. Here. The violence began when the killer, 51-year-old denturist, went on murderous rage after argument with common law wife, who he doesn't live with, right? They've said that. Over a video call he made with a female friend, according to a police source briefed in the matter, but not authorized to discuss it. I love these people. But not authorized to discuss it. But thank God for these people. I when I was reading this article, I just was like, thank you, because there are some really good cops coming forward and saying, listen, this isn't us, this isn't our deal. But of course, they're not authorized to say anything.
Well, at least in terms of what happened with her, is I actually find that her going to bed already is more suspicious, because if we think what happened with Clinton Ellison, he was going out to find his brother. But even if he didn't dress up because it was chilly outside, probably at the very least was somewhat, probably threw on a sweater or something. But if she was in bed, she's probably in her pajamas or, like whatever you wear to going to bed. So, but then he wakes her up and then puts her in this police car, and then she goes out into the woods and spends all night there. when
Good
Clinton
point.
Ellison was probably better dressed for the weather and still got hypothermia.
Yep.
Be right there. Yeah, he better dressed for the weather, and yet he managed to get hypothermia and she didn't. Continue on. I'll be back in like a minute.
Okay, no worries, no rush. That is an awesome point. That is totally another awesome point. Like it was interesting too, because I went back today and I was going to try and get transcripts from previous videos that we had done, just to see some of the things that we have discussed, and then subsequent RCMP releases addressing what we were talking about when the media is not talking about it. So, but I was interested to see that a bunch of the videos that I put out have not been closed captioned. Thereby, I can't. Oh, hello, Tara in the house. How are you doing? Tara had a big day today. Very big day. So, how is this woman who is handcuffed, probably wearing very little clothing, running out into the bush and surviving until 6:30 in the morning, when Clinton Ellison was out there until 4, probably did have a jacket and clothes on, and had hypothermia by 4 a.m. Treatable hypothermia, not, oh, I'm cold, hyperbole. No, actual hypothermia. So it's a bit crazy here. Sorry, you said it's in Messenger. Welcome back. Tara just popped in and she said she sent something here. Did you want me to share it, Tara? Why don't I just do this here first? If it's gonna load. Oh, she sent a picture also. Oh, you sent it to my phone.
There we go. Yeah, no, Kate was just heading to work. She was just running a little late, like every day.
Uh-oh.
No,
Well, just blame it on the COVID.
there you go. What's she going to do when COVID ends? And she's going to show up late for work, and then it's like she's going to have no excuse. What, your phone acting up?
No, I'm just reading Tara's message here.
Oh, okay. Because that'll be kind of a fun story itself in the meantime, because something interesting happened between Seamus and I the other day. So it's a few days ago, we're in the middle of a phone call, and suddenly, just like at the snap of a fingers, suddenly he couldn't hear me and I could not hear him. We called each other back several times, same thing. Called on different phones, same thing. I thought that was a little weird that happened. That just happened up, which I know you mentioned on one of your live streams, like our phones have been acting up.
Yes.
That's kind of one of the things that happened, and I was having trouble all the next day making phone calls. Tried to call my parents, and it wasn't happening. So I thought that was a little suspicious.
This has been happening. I get about, I would say, maybe about 70% of the messages that Steve sends me. Maybe a bit better than that. But there are messages that I totally do not get. Or if he sends me pictures, sometimes they'll say the media cannot be, for some reason, something like the media can't be sent or whatever. And Kage has been having problems with his phone. So I'm again, I don't think this is tinfoily crap. I really do think that this is all technology that they have readily available at their fingertips. Why they're not totally killing the channel, I'm not exactly sure. That one's surprising me, or why there hasn't been a strike issued to any of us. But I would say that's probably because they're probably just sitting there and gathering data would be my assessment. And probably going to come with the hammer later and say, listen, we're angry at you about this or whatever. We could charge you about that or some ridiculousness, right? But there is funny stuff going down. My channel was down for 15 minutes or something, or however long. Was it yesterday?
I think it was 2 days ago.
And Tara wrote me, funnily enough, and told me, and I was like, what are you talking about? And sure enough, yeah, but it happened to other people. So I think funny stuff is going on,
See, I thought what happened with your channel was just her internet at first, because she messaged me and said this, and I was like, so then I jumped on real quick onto YouTube and checked out your channel, and everything was there for me. So I told her, I was like, oh, I don't know, like, could be if you're just having internet problems, like, that's why it didn't seem to pop up or anything like that. And then you told me, you like texted me, you're like, are you having anything funny happen with your channel? I was like, uh-oh. Tara was not crazy. It was not an internet problem. She was right on the money.
Yeah, no, it was about, well, I don't know what time because I missed it all, but apparently it was at, yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that, Tara. I think I'll if you want to talk about it, you can, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah,
that's kind of private stuff. But
yeah,
she messaged me and I think because Steve asked me, he said to me, "What time was it?" And I said, "Well, Tara sent the message at 5. I think it was 5 or 5:30 or something." And he said, "Yep," because it happened on my channel too. And he said, his wife was trying to figure it out, and they were trying to figure it out. And then it happened to a couple other people in the Plaid Army, right? So I don't know if this is a Plaid thing because I'm kind of associated with the Plaid, or if I don't know what it is. But clearly, YouTube is just getting pissed about things being said. Well, and the RCMP. Fuck it, man. I'm going to put on the tinfoil. There is most certainly something going on with the phones. I don't know. Maybe it's just really bad coincidence.
Maybe, but it seems like a pretty damn big coincidence. Problem with the phones, problem with the channel, internet getting hit with DDoS.
Yeah, DDoS. I had the DDoS too at about 4 a.m. the other morning. I wasn't streaming or anything, but I kept losing. My internet kept going in and out. And when I called you the other night, I used 2 separate phones.
Yes, you did. Yeah, there was different numbers, and we couldn't talk.
So something fucky is going on. It's not like a cellular thing. That was a landline I used the second time.
Well, the other reason too was because it's not like it was at peak hours and maybe there was a bunch of phone calls so they couldn't get through. This was 9:30 at night. At least my time, it was 9:30 at night. So the fact that it just happened at that time, and then with everything else that was going on, I find it very difficult to believe that it just happens to be a coincidence. And it wasn't the same night that you got DDoSed, but I've got pretty good internet over here, like fast and reliable. And I had a problem a few days ago where a couple times on watching videos on YouTube, and I got the spinning loading wheel, and I was like, that's not supposed to happen with my internet. It might take a couple seconds to load like it does, but middle of the video, suddenly it's just giving me the spinning wheel, and then it continue after 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so, and then it happened again a little later on. So I thought that was a little weird. Mine could just, maybe it was a weird internet thing. But yeah, no, it was along with everything that was going on. What's that?
I don't think so. And Bruce was just saying there about the copyrights and stuff. I don't know about you, but 95% of my videos, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were no videos on my channel up until publicly made videos. I took them down 3-4 weeks ago because of something really, really ultra fucky that went on which I kind of have talked about some, and it was major bad screwy over on my end. And in terms of what was getting attacked and shit, like my TV, like all my internet was working. It was in my computer and on my phone, and I was streaming. Steve was there for that, and it was East Coast and they just tink, and then all of a sudden everything went fucky. So I put everything into private, and since that's happened, just like Bruce has been talking about, and I think Steve said the same thing. And what about you? Getting hit with copyright strikes for videos from or copyright infringements from years ago on videos that are private. And in Derek's case, he got strikes for stuff that was made private years ago. Like, yep. What is going on? Have you got hit with that stuff too?
Yeah, I just went back to really check it. Yeah, there were a couple videos that they ended up, not a strike recently, but the copyright claims and, you're banned in, not banned, like certain people can't see this video sort of thing. I have gotten a couple of those. So nothing that would affect the channel, but nothing that's at risk of being taken down or anything. But I have had a few that suddenly I was kind of browsing through and just happened to get hit. Suddenly it's like, oh, this can't be viewed in certain areas. And I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, actually, probably the best way to show that is on Studio, right? And it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I mean, I don't want to bitch and gripe about nonsense, but it's crazy how all these things are starting to come out. I mean, I just started getting hit with I don't think you can see them very well. Important notifications up here on the right, copyright claims, and see, I've got like 14 of them. Google and the liberals. I mean, this video has been private forever. When is this video made? Christ, this is so long ago. I don't even remember. Is there a way that I can watch that even? No. Good song though. It was a good video. I mean, this video I think was 2 or 3 years ago, and has been in the private box for, like I said, probably a month. Mm-hmm. No, over a month now. That would be like 2 months, and they're just pulling them out of anywhere. Here's another timestamp. Every single video pretty much that I've made since then, they've hit me with copyright since this all started. Steve's causing copyrights, the fucking guy. His shit. Gray cells, yeah, I mean, these are not even there. Your channel is no longer eligible for monetization. Well, thanks. Anyway, fucky business. But we should go back to the gold that's coming out about the gas cans. The two things I've been focused on recently has been the beginning part, so cluster 1 and cluster 3.
Yeah.
Cluster 2 is a clusterfuck, but if you match up the tweets to what was it? How was I trying to explain it to you the other day? If you match up the tweets, this is my theory. I'm trying to put this in words. Why they use Twitter right away and never, ever, ever use the emergency broadcast, because they were hoping that they could nullify the problem and sweep this whole RCMP stuff under the rug without letting as many people know as possible, right? I mean, obviously it was going to come out in terms of, but maybe they could get rid of the RCMP cruiser component of it. I think this was their thinking behind it all. So they keep saying things like the weapons complaint, and the weapons complaint stayed all night, right? Until what time was it?
I think it was almost 9. Was it?
Actually,
I'd have to double check.
here we go. Is this it right here? Okay, so we have weapons complaint from 11:32. So remember, this is now an hour after they have responded. So for an hour prior to that, no notification of the public at all, even though they already had 13 bodies, multiple structure fires, and a cruiser. They knew that it was the cruiser, and they said nothing. And then an hour later, they say, oh, yes, there's a weapons complaint or firearms complaint. Not a shooting, not 13 dead bodies, not multiple fires, nothing. So then it's more catch up. How do we deal with this? And so finally the next day they have to say something, but now we're at 8:02 in the morning. They say that it's an active shooter. So we've now had an active shooter case for 10 hours. 10 hours until they finally admit that there has been a shooting, a fire, anything other than somebody running around with an airsoft gun. And then we go on further and they will say, okay, Gabriel Wortman, but they've known about Gabriel Wortman, even if you use their god-awful shitty story of the girlfriend, which is totally not true because they admitted it in the press conference. There was a very short list and the suspect was number 1, meaning Gabriel Wortman, almost immediately. They're not going to say anything about that to the public. What they do though, however, is they go to Mr. Wortman's father's house 4 hours prior to this, and this is 2.5 hours after the girlfriend came out. So they went to the father's house even before the girlfriend ever came out of the woods. They went to the father's house and said, we got to get you out of here. And then they go on further, and by this point, if you look on the timeline, 6:04, which means 10:04, the corrections officers have already been killed and the house burned, and because the complaints to 911 about the corrections officers came at 8 o'clock in the morning, and so this is 2 hours after that, plus the 2 nurses have been pulled over and shot with the cruiser. So this is now, oh my God, he's gotten out of the fucking containment area that we thought we had him locked in. That's why they keep tweeting about Portapique, because they're sticking around in Portapique. Not because he'd already gotten through their multiple blockades, which there are numerous articles indicating on in the press that there were already barricades all over the place. So he just drove through them, and they just kept letting them through, these clowns, because they did not want anybody to know about how badly that they'd fucked this up and how many people's lives, because of their not dealing with the complaint in 2013, not dealing with the father's complaint, not dealing with the supposed armed robbery, which is according to the father. I don't think he'd have any reason to lie, where he pulled out a shotgun. Not according to the conviction in 2002, conviction for assault, not dealing with the fact that there was public knowledge of the cop cars to everybody except apparently the RCMP, even though in the same breath they say, we didn't know, it was widely known Mr. Wortman had multiple police cruisers, but there's no evidence to say that the RCMP knew anything about it, which is, sorry to use the pun, a fucking cop-out if I've ever seen one in my life, because Mr. Walker, Daniel Walker, the mortician, had spoken to Mr. Wortman about it, and he said, oh, the police had talked to him about the cruiser. Just don't drive it around on the road. Plus, I think we're now actually not up to 4 cruisers. I think we're up to 5, because he apparently burned 3 of them, and then he had his one, so that makes 4. And then he also had the one at the Dartmouth Denture Clinic.
No, you're right. I mean, because they did report that at least 3 cars were burned, and then he's got the one he's driving around. I was kind of wondering myself about this whole one that he had in Dartmouth. I see no reason that he probably brought it home. It's probably still sitting there. Which, I mean, I kind of doubt that these other cars were as decked out as this one that he was driving around in, but still, that means that he had access to what? He had access to 5 different RCMP vehicles. At least 4 has been confirmed. That's kind of shocking.
And I have read, and I will have to go, I don't know if I'll ever be able to find it again, and I don't think it was in a forum or anything stupid. It was in a mainstream media publication that he had 2 kitted out cruisers. So this was not his only one. He had one other fully marked up cruiser. So, I mean, and then they're going to try and say that, that this is, purchased. But I hope the point I'm trying to make clear about the fact that this was only after 10:04 was only after they got the phone call, and it was later than that, because what time was the complaint at? 9:40, 9:50? That the friends called and said, he's banging on our door with a shotgun or a long-barreled weapon. They phoned 911, please come and deal with him. And then the RCMP were like, oh, fuck, he's gotten out of there. But meanwhile, he's already murdered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people by that point, in addition to, because he got out. They let him out. There's only one way he could have gotten out. And if you listen to, where is that here? Excuse me. Give me a second, loading on that. Loading.
There was one way in and out of the community. That's important to note that.
Huh? There's one way in and one way out. How did he get out? Because he's not driving through a field. This is fucking bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Yeah, it was 9:43. 9:43. The friends supposedly, who now actually have been said that they were on the list. The list comment thing too was another funny thing. I don't know about you guys, but if you mind, I'm going to play this for you and let you tell me if you think that this is spooky. Did I erase it already? Maybe I did, which would be unfortunate.
How long ago do you think you erased it? Because it could still be in your recycle bin.
No. I mean, it's in my project for a video. Oh, and I did erase it. So, but when I was running the April 24th. So, and what I'm doing is, that's why that clip is like that, where it has 2 side-by-side, CPAC, and it has CBC. Mm-hmm. What I've been doing is I've been running them side-by-side, all of the different interviews in simultaneous time to see if other things that have been deleted. Mm-hmm. And what I came across today in the April 24th one was CPAC, CTV, and CBC all ran the live stream, and CTV and CBC interrupted the broadcast and said, "You're joining us, the normal stuff. You're joining us for the live blah, blah, blah," at the exact same time, covering over the question that somebody asked about the hit list.
What did they end up asking about that?
They said, there's been reports in the media about a hit list, and, what can you comment as to who was on that hit list and the validity of that hit list? I believe it was something to that effect. And yet I find it really strange throughout the whole thing, they never say anything, except both of them, CTV and CBC, exactly at the same time, say right then when the question's about to be asked, they voice over it with the you're joining blah blah blah, and you can't hear it, but in the background, because I got the CPAC version, you can hear the guy's question and he's talking about it, and then it jumps back to immediately when he answers, and he says, well, as to lists, we don't have a crystal ball or anything like this. So people who watch that would have no idea what they're talking about. What list? What are you talking about? What list? It would just go, So it seemed very intentional.
I've seen this tactic used before in the media. Whenever they're like a good example of this, and people notice it in interviews, is that they go to interview someone and they might say the first few words, but then they're going to say something they don't want. So then in comes the reporter or the anchor who just explains to you exactly what the person who they're interviewing is saying, and then goes into details and everything else. I've seen this used many, many times before, and that's always what it's about. It's trying to cover up something that they don't want to be released to the public, which is why actually lately I've said that CPAC's doing a better job than them. So yeah, there was something about that hit list that they wanted to make sure that was hidden from people, because like you said, nobody's going to know what there is actually being said, what the question was, and then it just kind of comes back. They have no reference point to it. Mm-hmm. Makes me that too is then okay. So what were they trying to hide from this list? Like, I don't know offhand. Maybe you have a theory on that.
Well, I don't. I mean, just yours is saying. I like the name too, but it's just up yours. Just say up yours. Yeah. Okay. Well, I just said it. There you go. The discrediting of it. Who did the discrediting of it?
I didn't hear about credited.
Yet Mr. Staples, I believe it was Nathan Staples who reported on it and said that he was number 6 or 7 on the list. If you search Nathan Staples' hit list. And he came out, and he was the same bozo who came out. Well, not bozo, I shouldn't ever say that. Sorry. He was the same fellow who came out and said, oh, yes, he was angry. He tried to come and buy a cop cruiser off of me that I had parked on my front lawn. And so he'd already been in the media once, and then he was back in the media again because of this hit list stuff. And the only person that discredited it is the discredited RCMP. So I don't know how we're believing half of the stuff. You can't believe what's coming out of these people's mouths. Where did Mr. Staples get that from? Sorry, did I blow out here?
Oh, no. Just itchy. Not quite like your stream the other night where you were screaming into your mic.
Yeah, it was a bit off. Well, I wasn't off. I was just angry. I'm angry because, I mean, all these deaths were so needless from the very beginning. We never even had to have this. The RCMP had multiple complaints. They knew he had weapons. They knew he had weapons illegally. They had talked to him numerous times about this. He had even been let go, apparently, in Halifax with a gun in his hand. And they're like, oh, no problem. Just, bad. You do bad. You shouldn't have pulled out that gun. Now we have to write a report. There is this fellow who has volunteered who has a friend who works in the Halifax PD, and I think I talked to you about that. I'm going to try and see if we can coordinate yourself, myself, Steve, and Kage, and see if we can get kind of a short list of questions just to give this guy. I asked him today. He said he's absolutely willing to do it. It's not going to cause any kind of problems between the relationship of his friendship. Okay. So if we could find out, say, that the Halifax PD had filed a police report with a shotgun on file, you know, back in, what would that be, 2010 approximately? This just goes more to lend credence to the fact that the RCMP knew that this man posed extreme dangers to society, and did nothing about it. And in fact, let him continue with having these items, which really, if we're honest about it, those uniforms only come from the RCMP. The RCMP don't deny that. Mm-hmm. They don't say, oh, yeah, well, he got them on eBay or something like that. When asked the question about, is there somebody on the inside that is helping them, they say that's something that we're looking into.
Which you know means by definition that they're trying to cover it up. I mean, that's also kind of applies into the other thing I came across with this situation. They say they're looking into it, yet they've released very little information. Then there's been the calls for the public inquiry into this situation to see what ended up happening, why Wortman did it, but even the response by the RCMP. And apparently now the Nova Scotia premier is what would it say? Hold on, I got it right here. Premier won't commit to public inquiry into mass shooting. Yeah. That was released today, the other day. Sorry, like a day or so ago in the Chronicle Herald.
Yep.
Where he didn't necessarily full out say we're not going to do that, but what did he say? I got it right here. It says there'll be a review for sure. It's our belief that the national government will lead that as they see fit, and we as a provincial government will provide the support where we can. Which pretty much from what I can tell is him saying that the RCMP are going to be the ones looking into it.
Exactly. So Mr. Moneypenny and I had an interesting conversation a little bit on Twitter today. And, you know, I do, once again, please, anybody who's interested, it's not as though I'm the best at getting back to people or whatever. Please, you know, get in contact with any of us over on Twitter. I think I've got everybody. I finally got it all worked out. Everybody's links and everything is in the channel. I think I put it in for tonight. So it's all there. Get in contact with any of us over on Twitter, and please follow the other guys' channels, obviously. Who are all you got some amazing stuff. You know, those 2 videos you got out there about that stuff, the stream the other night, bang on, man. But Mr. Moneypenny and I were talking about that a little bit, and I said the exclusion of Truro and Amherst municipal police forces was once again, this is all about pie plate action, covering their ass, because if they wanted to keep it all in-house. So this is why McNeil has a bit of an issue, because it's not necessarily a provincial thing, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's a federal thing, because if they're going to bring in police, they're going to bring in police from 330 kilometers away. 330 kilometers away, when there's police department that's, what, 30 kilometers away?
Yeah. He even
saying, listen, do you need help? And they said, no, don't help us.
He even passed through the area where those police were operating from in Truro, and yet they still didn't ask for their help in this situation.
Yep.
And again, you've already covered about how it seems like that would mean that they want to keep it in-house. But I wouldn't even be surprised if McNeil had maybe gotten a call from someone in the federal government, maybe the prime minister himself, because, you know, all the RCMP needs to go to the federal government, tell them, hey, you know what, we are the ones who need to look into this. We don't need anybody else, you know, because reasons, who knows, maybe they even told them the real reason, but just tell them, hey, you know, we have reasons that we're the only ones who should be looking into this. And then they get in contact with McNeil and say, nope, there's no public inquiry. We will let the RCMP handle this. That's the way it's going to be. Yeah, I think that's probably the main reason he did it, because I can't imagine that he wouldn't want a public inquiry into what was going on. It happened in his province, and I'm sure as a human being, he wants to know just as much as anybody else why this ended up taking place.
How many of these people, though, are really truly compromised? We've got to be a bit honest about this one. These people, they only get to those positions because they're picked, and they're willing to toe the line. Mm-hmm. And you know, it's not. I'm not trying to say that to be deprecating on anybody. It's because, I mean, you can look at people. Classic example, you know, you and I have talked about that a lot, is Baird. I mean, Baird just bang, and you know, if you dig why Mr. Baird left, well, it wasn't just because he liked, you know, going into the male's change room. No, it was far more insidious, dirty, and disgusting than that. And that's why, you know, these people, they get files on these people and they carry them around like sticks. And frankly, the sheer absence of people, even that article out of Maclean's, nobody's wanting to say their name. Nobody. And the one person who did say anything, just like everybody else, though, funnily enough, except for, I think, one person, two people that I've heard know about, still have their Facebook profiles, mm-hmm. but all the posts have all been deleted. Everybody's posts have been deleted, and there have been people like Mr. Ellison whose entire page is gone. Like, this does not make sense. And of 500 witnesses, because 100 people live on that road, nobody comes forward. There's people who have been shot, and the hospital is like, oh, you know, we're not going to say anything just to protect their privacy. Listen, if the police were doing such a fantastic job, the people are going to come out and say, I really feel like I would have died if it weren't for the police. Not getting boo, not anything. And the one person who did got in big shit, apparently. And the only other person is Brenda now, a month later, and how many provinces over?
Oh, a couple provinces at least over. Yeah, no, you're right. And I mean, the only people that have really been patting the RCMP on the back, you do have some members of the public, but I think those are the people that only kind of heard a little bit about it and didn't do any sort of real checking into the facts on that. But it's been the RCMP patting themselves on the back, and it's been the federal government patting them on the back. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I haven't heard really much praise for them with what's going on. I mean, if they had actually done their job properly, then yeah, people would be all out there going, you did a fantastic job. You know, thank you for the work you did.
Do you know one person?
One person?
Said that? Yeah.
Just like when the shooting was, a few days after the shooting went down, there were a couple people on Twitter that were like, you know, the RCMP did a great job, but I have no idea who those people are. They could even be family members.
Right.
No, exactly.
So in these types of scenarios, there is always the heroes. They have to have them. And the press is very good at finding them. And, you know, the government, the police departments are more than happy to make, you know, encourage those people to come out and say they did wonderful things. And yet you have total and utter crickets. That's it, crickets. From everybody involved in the story, whether it's the doctors, whether it's the cops, whether it's the politicians, whether it's the people, the 500 plus witnesses. None of them come out, but you had the construct very carefully crafted. This whole thing was a PR campaign and pie plate operation from the very word go. So when Stevenson died, that was their hero. That was their poster child. And the RCMP, they created her. Not people. Nobody was like, oh my God, Stevenson saved me. No, that was the RCMP who plastered her all over the media and, you know, threw it right out there in everybody's face. First and foremost, in every press conference, we've lost one of our own. We're family, blah, blah, blah. Even, you know, it made me sick watching the first couple of them because they were like, oh yeah, and by the way, 17 other people died, you know, in earlier on in the story. It was
all about them.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't tell Mr. Ellison his brother is dead, multiple witnesses. I found some really other new good witness statements kind of people who have come, who at the time did say a few things. And they equally were like, nobody had let us know about our family member. We're still waiting days. The guy down in New Mexico, whose parents, he was everybody was waiting days and days and days and days, but they, well, that's that fucking video I play with the cop fucking procession that they had.
That was going to be my point, is they took no time to immediately do a huge procession for Stevenson. And like, I know she was a cop and they lost their own, but they came out immediately and had all these cars ready to bring her body back to the station and all these people lined up. Meanwhile, there's another, 21 families that have lost people that still don't know if their loved ones are alive or if they're dead. Where are they? They can't get in contact, but immediately this is what they do.
No, they had time to do this, but they couldn't find out how many people were dead. They couldn't get Mr. Ellison his phone back. Of course, come on, let's be real, people. Nobody in the story has ever gotten their shit back, and if they do, it's fucking scrubbed. Yeah, like they lose everything that they have. So these pleas of, please come forward with your video. Please tell us your story. Even in one press conference, there was somebody who asked a question, and it was kind of weird, phrased in a way that made it sound like they might know something. Mm-hmm. And Campbell said, if you know something that you think we should know, I suggest that you speak with us. And it was really kind of a veiled threat. To me, it seemed quite threatening the way that he said it. Mm-hmm. And that was to a reporter. And I was like, listen, you guys can't get your stuff together at all to help any of these families, to let them know. That is utterly anguishing to know, listen, that road's closed down. I don't know where my family members are. Nobody's talking to me. Their phones are gone. And the RCMP isn't going to tell me anything for extended periods of time. I mean, you can look, they're going on into the next week, and they're still saying, I don't know anything for sure. And Tara didn't know anything until they finally heard, until she finally had somebody, a kind person at the coroner's office, who was like, well, I'm not really at liberty to tell you this, but it's the right thing to do off the record. I can tell you. I mean, and how long did she have to wait?
What was it? 2-3 days?
I think it was longer than that. Hopefully Tara's here. I think it was 4 or 5 days, and yet they had time again to do their fucking little fucking public show. But this public show was so that people immediately glommed onto RCMP victim status and can't do any wrong. You can't point fingers at somebody who has had somebody die, which is utter bullshit. I mean, listen, they like to go through and try and find out why people have died here. Are they bad people? Have they done something wrong for Wortman to kill them? Well, that's the same. The RCMP have done something wrong here, and they clearly did something wrong, to the point that they didn't know that Mr. Wortman was even out of Portapique until what time was that? 10:04, I believe, right? 10:04.
Something around there, yeah. Either way, it was hours after he had actually left the area. Yeah, 10:04. Okay, you're right.
And how many killings did we have? 5 more at that point. 5. Mm-hmm. 5, which are directly at the doorstep of the RCMP, because where was that? There was some articles I was reading about neighbor. No, that's not it. Owen and Thurier, these two individuals who lived across the street from And these are again, so they got, somehow the press got to them before the RCMP did. Jenkins and McLeod, they lived across the street from Jenkins and McLeod.
Mhm.
And so they made a statement and they said, well, we had to go and we found Bagley. We heard the gunshots at 8:00. But they also talked about how there was helicopters and blockades. So we already have them running around. Again, he's getting through blockades all over the place. And they've got helicopters flying around looking for him. And he's still running amok. He's running amok. I mean, if we want to believe their story, he's having a nap, for fuck's sakes. And they can't find him.
See, I find that very hard to believe too, that he went over to Debert and then ended up going to sleep there. I mean, you just ended up going on a rampage, killing 9 people in Portapic, and then immediately afterwards, when the police are looking for you, you're supposed to be going to sleep. I don't think somebody can just do that, go to sleep right after that. I mean, your adrenaline's coursing through your veins and everything. But and then again, you also want to stay vigilant because you got the police looking out for you. You don't know, and at that point, he doesn't know. Is it just the RCMP? Is it Truro and all these other areas that cops that are looking for him? So the whole idea of it is just ridiculous to begin with. But that's the only way they can account for that missing 8 hours or something, whatever it is. It was like 11:30.
The missing 8 hours is exactly the article from where's that? From the McLean's article, which I've been bitching and whining about because he was still in the fucking Portapic, and they locked him in there, and there were either disobedient members who were like, and according to this article, that's what it was, and it does specifically say that they were at the end of the road. But there were a few people who were like, fuck that, I'm going in. These people are dying. But Mr. Wortman was running around there for hours, as it so stipulates in this article, which verifies exactly what Mr. Ellison said, and funnily enough, fits the timeline perfectly. Yep. But that means that they let him out. They let him run around amok, burning up people, doing his thing, because they ordered their men not to go in. And all those people, also their deaths, funnily enough, lay at the whole thing. But it's just compounds. It gets worse and worse. If let's just say you fucked up, you let all of this stuff slide, you let them have the weapons, you let them have the cruiser, you let them have all of this let's just even go with that. Fine. As soon as they got the fucking call, they should have been in there like a dirty shirt. And yeah, their jobs, I don't envy them, but they get paid to do that. And I'm not wanting anybody to get harmed. I'm not saying that for that reason. But what I am saying is, you don't back down. That's your job. You gotta go.
No one goes in to become a cop and doesn't realize that the danger is there. In fact, I would say for many people, that's part of the enticement for the job, They're not just going in because they love the law, or they're not just going in because they really want to be a cop. But they know that when they're going in, there's that possibility at any point that maybe there's a gunman. Maybe you get into a firefight. You might kill them. They might kill you. So for them to sort of then sit behind and let this getting carried out is unacceptable, especially because this is not just a local cop from a small town where this is not supposed to happen, and maybe he didn't go in prepared or something. This is the RCMP. You're the top of the Canadian police force. You're supposed to set the example for all the other police forces across Canada.
Yeah.
But instead, many of these people either were good good order followers and didn't want to go in, or they were cowering. And that's why they didn't want to go in. And I get it, in that area. It's dark. You don't know where everything is. You don't know where he happens to be. I'm sure for some of these people, the idea, what was on their minds was the shooting that took place in Moncton a few years ago, where the 4 RCMP officers were killed, and the guy was shooting at them from the woods. So it's like, I've got trees all around me. It's dark. I can't see. I don't know where he is. But that's what you are supposed to do.
What do we expect our soldiers to do?
Yes.
You can't have these options like, oh, you know what, I don't feel like going, which I'm not saying. I think, funnily enough, it came from the brass at the top. Don't go in until you have the armored cruiser. Stay there until, whenever it comes, and it didn't come until 4 o'clock in the morning. So meanwhile, Wortman's running around there for 6 hours committing absolute havoc, which makes sense. And in the meantime, you get the horrible... This article has some really quite gut-wrenching stuff about the 2 children whose parents are dead, right? And they are hiding in the basement, and their mom is dead on the lawn out in front of their house, and they're on the phone to 911, crying into the phone, and they were on the phone with them for 2 hours.
Jesus.
So if they had Mr. Wortman was gone in 34 minutes, I don't think that they were on the phone just having a little, chit chat for another hour and a half. It was because nobody came to save them. And that is, I mean, those children. I remember seeing the interview with the uncle who he went to when they went to stay with, and he said they're managing so very well and so terribly brave. And I was like, after reading this, I'm like, those children are beyond traumatized and don't have their parents anymore, never will have their parents, may have witnessed their parents dying, and had to sit on the phone begging for somebody to come and save them. The very police that were supposed to be raised as children to trust and believe in, and saying to them, please come, please come. I mean, they're 10 and 12. How old are they? 10 and 12 years old, I believe. And they're just sitting there for 2 hours on the phone. And it's funny because now that this has come out, some of the stuff that Campbell, when I was watching his 24th press conference, he makes reference to how the telecommunication experts who are on the phone with victims, this is who he's talking about, is these kids. It's spooky how it comes together. And I'm like, oh man, this is like, it was one bad thing on top of another bad thing on top of another bad thing. But, and that was what I was trying to do with this. I always have 7,000 projects on the go. But this is what I was trying to illustrate, is what were the police actually saying to the public at the time. And for the first hour where he's like, we can go back to that, where he's literally saying all of these terrible things are going on. Where's that? So this is the tweet that they had sitting in their timeline prior. It was the cat and the lockup, the fucked up tweet about locking your doors with it was kind of the COVID nonsense, the curfew, right? You know the one I'm talking about, the one prior, with the cat rolling around on its back. And listen to what is really happening at the time. And then, of course, the emergency broadcast, which just remains crickets the whole time.
So what we've learned as part of the investigation is that on April 18th, before the first 911 call was received, there was an assault between the gunman and a person known to him. This assault occurred in the area of Portapeak. The victim managed to escape from the gunman, and she hid overnight in the woods. Following this, police received its first 911 call with a report of a shooting at a home in the area. Officers arrived on scene at 10:26 in the evening, where they located a male who was leaving the area with an apparent gunshot wound.
Who shot him?
Learned that this male was shot while driving his vehicle, and the victim indicated that a vehicle had driven by him while he was driving, and that he was shot as the vehicle was passing by. He did describe this vehicle as a vehicle that looked like a police vehicle.
Sorry? What time did they know about the police cruiser at? Right away. Then they go a little bit further into the road.
He also indicated to the responding officers that that vehicle was driving towards the beach, and that there was one way in and out of the community.
Again?
It's important to note that.
Mm-hmm.
The officer arranged for EHS, which is Emergency Health Services, to attend to the victim, and the victim was taken to hospital. He has survived. Several police units responded to the area, and upon arriving, they located several people who were deceased, some of which were lying in the roadway.
And what are they still telling you? Lock your door with your cat rolling around in a GIF. That's what they were telling you. They go further.
There were also several structures that were already fully engulfed in flames. In total, there were over 7 locations where people were found deceased. Many of the deceased were discovered while responding members were checking homes for victims and or for suspects. At this time, the police began looking at a number of possible suspects as a result of the information that they were receiving. While the situation was unfolding, the critical incident program was engaged and was staging to take control of the critical incident. During this point, perimeters were established.
Perimeters were established. That means roadblocks. And we know Mr. Wortman is still inside, wreaking havoc. Then they're telling you cats.
Specialized units responded, which included police dog services, emergency response team members, and requests for air support helicopter.
So I have to approximate, and I'm guessing probably by this point, they put out the tweet that says, there's a firearms complaint.
What a way to describe it. A firearms complaint. Yeah, several people are dead. There's a bunch of houses on fire. But seriously, guys, it's just a firearms complaint.
And it's a cop car.
Yes.
And we know who it is. He says it's a short list of suspects. In another one, I know he's asked that. And they say to him, who was Mr. Wortman on the list of suspects? And they say yes. So they knew who it was right away. I mean, how many people are running around with fucking cop cruisers? Let's get real here. On a road of 100 people, there's one guy who they've had to have numerous run-ins with. Numerous people have complained about. And yet the police, well, that's no problem. What's her name? Had to leave to go to Ontario eventually because it was so bad. A quote psychopath, she described him as. And yet that's the way they're going to tell you. They know bodies are there. They know they have an active shooter case, but they don't tell you that until 8 o'clock. Is it 8 o'clock? Is it 8 o'clock in the morning the next day?
Yeah, it was 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock in the morning. But already by 11:30, they know multiple bodies. Yeah, and nobody's on Twitter. Multiple bodies, but even if everybody and their dog was on Twitter, what do they know? What do they know? They know multiple bodies. The RCMP know multiple bodies, cop car, suspect, fires, and they're telling people on the, how did Leather describe it? A very superior way of informing people. The very superior way of informing people, they told them about a cat rolling around on the ground.
this is just a huge amount of incompetence, or more likely exactly what you've been talking about. The whole point was supposed to be a cover-up from the very beginning. The idea of plausible deniability, because even I on Twitter follow the Toronto police Twitter account, and they're right up to direct with you on what's going on. Like they'll say over on Yonge Street, there were shots fired. We know of 2 victims, and then, they'll give you updates as it go.
Well, you have to remember too there. Sorry to interrupt, Adrian. You have to remember there too. I used to read all of their garbage all the time. They bury a ton of shit over there too.
Oh, absolutely.
They do help. They do inform people, yes, but I mean, again, this is not a system that they should be using to inform people. If they wanted to really do something about it, they should equally use the emergency alert, right? If there's a shooter or a shooting case going on. But you see, what would happen is if they used that, it's exactly like somebody pointed out in the article who was trying to defend the RCMP. And he said, well, they're thinking, his argument is crap. And I understand where he's coming from, his bias. But he said the reason that they didn't want to use the emergency broadcast system ever was because they were afraid of scaring citizens, and that it may imperil, people who may have firearms may start shooting police. Now, frankly, I think if you say to people, please go in your house and lock the door and don't let any police in your house, I don't think there's any policemen that are going to be shot, because nobody's going to be running around on the street looking for police. They're going to be inside waiting for the police to deal with their shit.
Well, they're going to be there trying to take care of themselves and their family. I mean, this is not a Rambo movie where people are immediately going to go grab their guns and try and go out and face the shooter head on, because, well, they're in the same boat at that point as the RCMP would be when they showed up at the scene, in that it's dark out. They don't know where the person is. There's a lot of wooded areas, so there's vantage points for the person to be, like Wortman, to be hiding, and they don't know where it is. Difference is it's the RCMP's job in order to take care of these situations. They're being paid to take care of these situations. But why would their average civilian put themselves on the line like that for what, maybe possibly a good story? Hell, especially with the laws are fashioned in Canada, they may even charge you for going out with a gun and even shooting Wortman, even if he had a gun and everything.
They would.
Yeah. So nobody's going to be doing this.
Nobody's going to be doing that. And there are people who counter that, who are policemen in that article equally. And they say, that's just not true. It would have saved lives had we done this. But it was nothing about that. It was nothing about, that's why Amherst wasn't involved. That's why Truro wasn't involved. That's why you have cats rolling around when they have bodies on their hands. It had to do with protect the RCMP. And it was a full-on fucking PR campaign, and has been still to this day. Because the stuff that we talk about, say gas cans and shit, they're going to come out with then and say, well, you know what? Of course, because there's fucking some jackasses sitting on YouTube with a lighter trying to light his house on fire. And he's saying, you can't fucking light your house on fire in 34 minutes. Get out of here. When you're going to light 5 houses on fire, you're going to tie people up, beat them down, burn them to death, shoot them, chase people around in the woods, and drive through a field in a 4x4 fucking cruiser? Are you out of your fucking mind? No, because it was cats, rolling cats. And then it became Stevenson, the fucking hero, who nobody, zero people have ever come out and said, Stevenson saved my life. Because she didn't. That was a construct by the RCMP. Now, I feel equally terrible for her family, and as I do for all of them, because it never needed to happen.
Oh, they could have prevented it from happening if they had done their job in the first place. Stevenson would have been alive, Wortman would be dead, and a bunch of these other people, maybe that pregnant nurse would have been alive.
We wouldn't have a Wortman, because how the fuck would Wortman get round in the RCMP cruiser? Aaron Tuck wouldn't have opened his door to some fucking asshole that already had pissed him off. He would have been like, get the fuck away from me. Go home. I know who that is. I'm not opening up my door. But you got a guy running around in a cop cruiser. Well, that's a different story. Because that's where it all started. None of it, and I mean zero deaths had to happen. Zero. Not just the ones at the end. It just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse because of the decisions that the RCMP kept making. And they only made those decisions. And I stand by this one until the day that I die, because I'm certain of this, as I am the sun rises every day. The only thing that they were interested in, I'll say predominantly, let's put 90%, was their reputation. Because if you cut their reputation down, all of a sudden, many different things will start to happen. Possibly they'll lose contracts with cities that contract them to do policing. All of a sudden, they're not near as a powerful force as they once were, because maybe they might actually have real civilian oversight put in. So they are no longer in the driver's seat like they are right now. This is ludicrous to keep saying RCMP can investigate the RCMP. You don't ask a child molester to investigate a child molester. This is absolutely asinine. You cannot expect an unbiased opinion. You cannot, but they can't have that power cut from them. They have an ungodly amount of power. They run the firearms fucking program. There you go. There's another one. Maybe they'll lose that because people will be like, you can't even deal with people with illegal guns. You can't even, and people really should step all over that one. I'm fucking angry about that. Well, I'm angry about a lot of things, but I'm angry about the fact that the RCMP, how long did it take them to say that it was likely he did not have a firearms license? When they themselves run the system, and it is about as easy as doing this. That's it. There you go. Now I know Mr. Wortman does not have a firearms license. They didn't want to tell the press that because they're going to lose power. This is all about power. It's like a rapist. It's fucking sick, man.
Well, the thing was, too, at least for the top brass, too, because on top of that, they would probably, if this sort of crash in reputation they had, it would mean a cut in budget, which means they got to lay off officers. That also probably means there would be a change of guard at the top. All these brass would have been fired, or, you know, the way they do it, they would ask for their resignation. And then they would have to change it up, who's at the top. And this is what it's all about at the end of the day. It's about protecting the RCMP reputation because of the repercussions, but it's also about protecting themselves, their own jobs. Because I think at the end of the day, that's really what's driving this, is they don't want to lose that power. They don't want to lose their jobs. And it's fucking sad that this is the point that we're at. That all these people had to die, that the RCMP ended up covering it up, all because they wanted to protect themselves. Make sure they still got that cushy job, that nice paycheck, probably the benefits that go along with it. And hell, I mean, that's just, when we look at probably the illegal activity they're involved with, that's going to cut into their funding as well.
I would agree. I think there's a lot of fucking shenanigans going on illegally. Because it seems very apparent that there is somebody at least helping Mr. Wortman, and there's been convictions of other things. But how much money does Mr. Campbell make? He makes
a decent amount,
$180 some odd $1,000 a year.
There you go.
Between he and his wife, who own a $646,000 house, they're policemen. They're not rocket scientists. Their job is bureaucratic. It's simply bureaucratic.
Oh, yeah.
You're never going to see Mr. Campbell going out and doing a SWAT raid. He's not one of the boots on the ground guys who were brave enough to supersede and override the orders to just be insubordinate to the orders that the RCMP were saying, which is just sit at the end of the road. Let those people die. Let them die, because we don't want to be imperiled in any way, shape, or form here. I mean, it goes bonkers on top of bonkers on top of bonkers, and to the next day even, until this day. But I mean, the next day, what are they doing? Was it the next day or the 2 days later? Sorry, 2-3 days later, when the airsoft emergency alert came out?
Yes.
They decided to operate, then they use that then? This is...
Well, of course they're going to do that, because at that point they had nothing to lose by using it. They weren't complicit in anything, so it's perfect. You can put out the alert, even whether it's a real gun or a fake gun. You know, we covered our bases in this situation. But with Wortman, with everything we already know, they couldn't do that, because then the information would start coming out. People would figure out their involvement with him and how they screwed this up. Yep. But there was no danger by doing that for the airsoft guns. Yep.
So again, you know, Mr. Moneypenny's question is a good question. Why are they wanting to cover up Mr. Wortman? Well, and I think just arguing from that standpoint alone, to get them to be responsible, hopefully to a legal case, then you can start to ask the other kind of questions, which may be a bit more dodgy. But, you know, to some people, the tinfoily type stuff. What are you into? Like, why did Mr. Wortman want the cruiser? He wanted the cruiser in the uniform for a reason. What was the reason? Drugs, probably, right? He's running around drugs in an RCMP car.
That was my thought as well. The fact that he had all these cops in his pocket, they were not willing to charge him. He had access to illegal weapons along with the vehicles that he had. And I mean, drugs is always, for a long time, was something that corrupt cops have been involved with, because it brings in a lot of money. They don't have to do anything aside turn a blind eye to the drug dealer. And maybe, you know, if they get into a bit of trouble, they show up and just sort of make it go away. But aside for that, it's a pretty safe position for them to do. So yeah, no, I have a pretty strong feeling he was involved with drugs as well.
Well, and why are we fighting that, aside from Israel and they're wanting wars every which way from Sunday over there? Because they can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag on their own. They're just going to have everybody else die for them and fucking deceive them into doing it. But why are we fighting? What about Afghanistan? Afghanistan, you know,
poppy fields.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to be rude. I'm sure it's a very beautiful country and all that wonderful stuff, but it really is kind of a piece of dirt. It's not that important in the scheme of things. The people there want to live their life the way they want to live it. But it's the poppy fields that are worth huge money, and the U.S. troops will go around and guard those poppy fields. So, to think that our governments, our police forces, the quote war on drugs, which many people have gone through and absolutely torn apart. Yes, Tammy, again, but these discussions of human trafficking, or these discussions even of the drugs and things like that, are speculative. I want to prove, where is the problem? What can you take them to court on and say, listen, because in this article, remember how I said that the Halifax, you and I spoke about that, the Halifax suit, the suit from Mr. The nurse.
Oh, her husband.
Her husband.
Yes, that's right.
Her husband's tune has changed a little
has
bit.
it?
A little bit.
How did it change?
In the article, he says and I don't know, maybe stuff is leaking back to him. Maybe he's just had a chance to sit around and wait. What was his name?
Give me 1 second. I'll figure it out. Nick Beaton.
All right. Okay. So let's do Beaton. Okay. Nick Beaton. Nick Beaton. See, like this stuff is just brutal, man. Nick Beaton, widower of Christian, is still waiting. This article is brand new. Still waiting for police to return her wedding rings and cell phone. What the fuck? He is careful to say he doesn't blame the foot soldiers on the ground. Yes, that absolutely agree. But believes the force's failure to send an alert led to his wife's death. Quote, the RCMP are as responsible for my wife and unborn baby's death as that lowlife.
Awesome.
Ooh.
That's great of him to say.
I can 100% guarantee you without a warning, my wife would be alive today. With a warning, my wife would be alive today. And he's 100% right.
No, he is. No, because she probably wouldn't have been on the street, or she would have been a lot more careful with this RCM, like, you know, because they would have known he was in an RCMP vehicle. No, he's 100% right on that situation, that she probably would have been alive. Their baby would still be on the way. But instead, he literally lost both his wife and his child at the exact same time. I mean, I feel for this guy. Yeah. I feel awful that this is what he's going through. And even at the end of the day, he's still not getting the answers that he deserves.
And also because they were afraid their communications might get paralyzed. What kind of communications are they? What kind of communications? Are they talking about the cat communications? Seriously? The cat communications? 100% guarantee, he says.
Hey, didn't that bring you comfort? Comfort when all these people were dying? You got a kitty rolling around?
I don't know. But like some people at the top there really, really I mean, that's not defamatory to say. It's just simply, where is your conscience? Like, that is beyond evil to allow people to die. When there were people, clearly good RCMP people on the ground who did want to do something, and they did, and they went in, but they didn't have the backing of the RCMP. They didn't have the orders to go in. They disobeyed orders, and frankly, I bet you they're probably in trouble. They've probably gotten reprimanded for doing that. And like this, what kind of world is that?
That really wouldn't surprise me, because, like, again, the whole thing about not just with the police, but also the military is following orders. And, you know, even if you do it for good reasons, you're usually getting into a lot of crap for that. But we were also theorizing when all this was going down is, why was the RCMP response so bad? We were theorizing that they may have gotten a stand down order, and that seems quite clear from this now, from that article from McLean's, that they were told to stay outside, but there were a few cops that had to disobey that order to go in. And so the good cops, once again, are the ones that actually get the short end of the stick, and the ones who let them die, they're fine. They didn't get a talking to or anything like that.
Yep. No. What kind of the Mr. Moneypenny's point here? He is still suing the Wortmans, that the Wortman estate. That is true. However, the lawyer has specifically said, right at the beginning, we're going to be there. We're setting this up so that we can fold other class action suits in. That unsaid statement of other class action suits is against the RCMP. Lawyers down there are aware that this is coming. I mean, that was the lawyer I spoke to almost right away. down there. They were like, it's not that they're chomping at the bit to sue the RCMP. I'm sure there are some lawyers that are, but they're wanting to clean this up because it is a fucking wreck.
And they want to approach that carefully because, again, like it's a lot different from saying you're going to sue Wortman's estate. Well, you can directly tie into this situation, so it's easy to sue. The RCMP one will be a little more difficult because you got to prove their negligence, which is not too hard with what we got. But they also have the backing of tax money, the federal government, and probably the best lawyers in Canada. So you kind of have to prepare for that before you announce officially.
I'm sorry, Adrian. Like seriously. This right here says it all. This piece right here says it all.
Yep.
I'm ready to go gangbusters on all the rest of it, the fucking timestamps, everything, and get more people involved here. Like there's 43 people tuning in right now. And yeah, it's the same great people. I don't know how many more people we're getting because the numbers are dwindling, which is sad. But this says it right here. The sheer incompetency. We're running around. We know there's a cop car involved. We know that there's bodies. They're dead. We know that there's 5 house structures on fire and three cars on fire. We know this stuff. And what are we telling you? We're telling you nothing. We're not using the emergency broadcast system, which we never used. And we're telling you about cat videos. And we will never tell you that there was even a shooting for another 9 hours. Unbelievable. And that time, how many bodies are we up to? 18 people dead. All. Starting with the first one on the RCMP hands, because they could have dealt with all of this, from these lists of people who have made complaints, that I've got here that have over decades against this man. Interactions with the police, convictions, known multiple complaints about weapons, multiple complaints. And they did zip. They created this mess. And then they were like, oh fuck. The guy just did something. What are we going to do?
And this is why they do need to be sued, because A, it'll bring it out into the light.
Yep.
B, these families deserve some compensation for the RCMP's incompetence.
Yep.
And C, this is not the first time that we've seen RCMP corruption, and that has to finally, at one point, they have to answer for that. And this could be that point where they do actually have to answer. If this lawsuit does get launched against them, then it's very likely. I think personally, it's very likely that the victims' families will win that lawsuit.
I just, the cat video alone
about how they, yeah.
Like, it's sad and it's sick, but it's true. That alone right there, and locking them in there to die is enough.
Yep.
Is honestly enough. But these fucking you're going to have CERT investigate them, who is a totally police force orientated, quote, mixed civilian police force. No, it's not. It's police. It's 100% police. You've got possible public inquiry. Come on, people. Where do the public inquiries ever go? Who gets in trouble? Whatever really gets changed. The public inquiries, the same public inquiries. Hello.
Say hi, Andy. Say hi, buddy.
Aww.
I think he's just missing me while I was downstairs.
The same public inquiry that said to the RCMP that, what was it? What was the RCMP report back in what year was that? 2003? 2003? There was a commission that was brought and had cited the RCMP for loss of public trust and and that they had major issues to clean up, and gave a set of recommendations. The RCMP, since that point, have implemented a zero, a big fat zero, to the point that the Journalist Organization of Canada, whatever, all the journalists here in Canada, gave them a Raspberry Prize for being the most secretive organization in Canada.
And that says a lot, considering some of the intelligence agencies we deal with. Like CSIS is secretive enough, but really out of all of them, I always thought that would be what was it, CSEC? I think it is. It's sort of like our NSA, CSE. Yeah. Them. I always thought it was going to be them. So the fact that it's the RCMP is surprising, because they're the most prominent sort of like law enforcement intelligence agency, if you want, in Canada. So the fact that they're not giving any answers is, and how secretive they are, it really makes you wonder what goes on behind closed doors over there. And I mean, it's quite obvious that it's nothing good.
And the government, this is the government's police force representing the government, just like the CBC is the wing of the government who pumps out the crap that the RCMP want them to pump out. It's a circle, right? If it's the people taking it to them and asking the questions, there's not special interest groups. There's not, oh my God, you know, I'm worried about my job, or you're going to bring out, who God knows, let's go tinfoil. You're not going to drop kiddie porn on me or something like this. You know, it'll be people just sitting there, lawyers asking them questions like, where were you? What did you do? Who ordered you to do that? How many people died as a result? What time did you finally go in and arrive? When did you actually ascertain that this man had left your area? Could you please prove to us driving through a field with a car? Blah, 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 blah. And it will just all start to fall apart on them, because it is beyond shaky at best. I mean, if they're going to flash a photo, Tara was down today, and she went and she drove to, she went to Aaron's house, and she went to, she was down at the truck stop, and I asked her, could she go over to the weigh-in scale and find the camera there. And the camera, how can they show that photo in good conscience and say, the time stamp on that photo is 10:31, when he's not going to die, and then put below it 11:23. No, the timestamp says 10:31. That is a government weigh scale. It has to be regulated. And the overseeing body of that would be the RCMP.
The only way they can do that and lie so blatantly is that they've gotten away with it so long that they don't care anymore. They can come out and blatantly say that, and they don't have any worries, because, you know, they got the CBC covering for them right now. They've got the propaganda arm of them and the federal government that's covering for them. No one's actually asking them the tough questions like that. Like, well, if this says 10:35 or whatever it was, why did you say it was like at 11:20? Because that doesn't make any sense. But they can come out and say that's no problem. They've gotten away with it up to now. Yep. So why do they have any reason to really cover it up? That
red Mazda.
Yeah, when it was a gray Mazda.
And then a bunch of yahoos on the fucking internet are pointing out, no, there's no red Mazda, there's no red Mazda, there's no red Mazda. And then suddenly the report changes 4 days later to, just a Mazda. The removal of the word red. I want to know what the red Mazda is that they're talking about. Because that's just another absolute gigantic fuck up. How can you have hours and hours and hours and hours of footage coming from all these helmet cams, all of the police reports that say the car that is actually impounded with the bullet in the window, and you're going to say it was the red car? You're pretty fucking stupid. Like, real stupid. You can't be getting $180,000 for that.
Well, there's also the fact that they manipulated other images on there. I mean, how is it that they're saying that by 11:15 at night he's in Debert when we know that there were gunshots going on for the next 4 hours? Why did they end up blurring out some of the cars that were up at the correctional officer's place? Why have you changed the timeline so drastically over the last little bit? Like they try to stay as to their timeline, but they had to do it by manipulating images, by manipulating times, by saying all these clocks are wrong. I mean,
I want to know who the vehicle recovery service is in Nova Scotia, contracted to the RCMP. I would love to know who they are and find out what car they towed out at Gina Wortman's place, because I'm guaranteeing you, dollars to donuts, I'll put a pretty decent wager on it. It's not a fucking silver tracker. It is a fucking cruiser.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that. I mean, I can't imagine that they said he was driving a silver tracker, and then he just happened to come across one at Shubenacadie that was quite convenient for them. You know, that's.
Well, he's in Brookfield, for fuck's sakes, when he's dead. 2 minutes from dying, he's in Brookfield in a silver tracker.
Yeah.
That's completely asinine. Confirmed. Seen. I think poor Joey Weber was shot by the RCMP. I think Stevenson was collateral damage. Morrison equally so. You know, let's just put the tinfoil away for a moment about what they may or may not have known. Let's just look at it from logic. 15 minutes. He's 18 minutes. He's got an 18-minute window to shoot a cop driving, then get in a head-on collision, then, shoot that cop, then light cars on fire, then flag down somebody else, then kill them, then jump in their car, drive down to Gina Goulet's house, then kill her dogs, then shoot her, then change his clothes, then find her keys, then take her car, now go down, get out of here. No way, man. That's the house on fire. Here we go. $180,000. This is what you get. Real intelligence. Not a good example for kids. Honestly, this is not a good example to show kids special needs. No. Running our country.
You know, it's not a good example for anyone. I mean, the RCMP, they were already becoming, they already were a joke kind of already. They already proved how corrupt they were. They were already proving themselves they're no better than bellhops when they were what was going on in Roxham Road. But this is a new level of low, what they've just pulled. They've covered up for a mass shooting. They have let the families go without answers. And they're doing it to cover their own ass.
Okay, so Mr. Moneypenny's in here. I have pictures of the bullet hole in the window, number one. Number two, the Darcy saying the cop uniform guy. Darcy is in contact with us. So, she did say that. But
I just got to let my dog out. Be right back.
No problem. Look at the story. Look at the story that she tells you. She's behind. Again. So somehow he got in front of her, but then he lost her in the silver tracker. Then he was in front of her again, and the cops were straight on his ass. How would he pull into Gina Goulet's driveway straight on his ass? Like they would have been, she would have got out the door? That's it. There's no way. No way. No way. How did they have him driving around for 18 minutes in the silver SUV? 18 minutes when he's driving. Is it 18 minutes? Sorry, I'll just bring up the exact time. I don't want to be ever wrong. I don't like being wrong about things. And yeah, I have been from time to time. But let's see, how long is it that they say? Here we go. The first one. What time is that at? Oh, this is the, why is this not showing? Oh, this is the archived version. Balls. So we go back and we go up the Twitter line here. And how long is he driving it for? Silver SUV is at 11:06 and then again at 11:24. 18 minutes, so I was right. And how long does he drive it for according to the RCMP? 1.8 kilometers. So that would make him a pretty slow driver, number one. And number two, he's in Milford and he's in Brookfield. He is nowhere near Shubenacadie.
Oh.
So he's going farther north for some reason. In the silver tracker, yes, I've got a picture of the bullet hole in the windshield. Let's see. I think I can find it. Maybe YouTube will ban me for that or something. Showing
you
a
can
bullet
join
hole.
Derek.
There you go. Well, I think I've got 54 subs on my alt channel now, so
Nice.
I've rocketed to the top here. There's that one. That's not it. That's from that angle. Where is it here? Wortman car, big stop. Body. Yeah, and they say that it's 2 officers that got him now. 2. A canine officer and a tactical officer.
That got Wortman?
That got Wortman.
I didn't see any canines in any of the pictures there.
Where's that photo? Oh, balls. I don't know where I put it. I'll dig it up, Manny Penny. Don't worry about it. I think you can trust me. I'm not full of shit. There's a bullet hole in the front windshield. There was one organization that actually did take a photo from that angle. Most everybody took it either from behind or from off to the rear left quarter panel side.
Yeah,
so
I'd
they
like to see that
identify him
picture
sitting
too.
in this. Yeah, I mean, this again. To their knowledge, he's driving a silver tracker. That's what they know him. He's driving a silver tracker. They have no idea about Gina Goulet. They have no idea about any of it. So how is it that he's showing up at a gas bar in a gray Mazda in civilian clothes, and they're like, "Oh, here he is." Their reasoning for that is, "Oh yeah, we stopped for gas, and we had a picture of him from the bolo, and we recognized him, so we took him down."
Well, another thing to wonder about this when it comes to the vehicles is because we've talked about, like, where's the silver tracker? Like, did he even have the silver tracker? Yada, yada, yada. But another question we should be asking too is, where are the pictures of Morrison's car? Because Morrison got shot. They would have that vehicle, but yet they have not released any, as far as I can find, to the public.
No.
I mean, even if it's just like he's not riddled with bullets, his car, they would at least be able to show, like, here's one that pierced the windshield, or, that went through the driver's side door. But they haven't showed any of that. But again, if it's possible, just a theory, that maybe the 2 cars that we saw that were on fire were Morrison's and Stevenson's, which might, again, if we're going on the idea that that maybe Stevenson was killed by the other RCMP members, maybe that's why both cars were burned. Maybe that's why we haven't seen Morrison's car, and why maybe if they were towing away a car at Gina Goulet's house, maybe that just so happens to be Wortman's vehicle that we've been looking for this whole time.
Bang on, bang on. I think it's both their cars, Stevenson and Morrison. Those are their cars, and meanwhile, because that's it's the only thing that logically makes sense. He only has that time window to go down there in and be in that car, and Weber is just complete. Somebody made a bad report, and poor Weber got it because of that. But that's why you never see any of these vehicles. That's why, Mr. Moneypenny, I mean, do you think that they're going to show you? They're never going to show you shit. The only reference ever to Joey is from the, there's some people who talk about it from the funeral, but from prior to that is the former alderman from Halifax, who's a neighbor, that's it. And he says, well, he was going to town on a family errand and he got killed. But you don't see a vehicle. You don't see where it is. But you do see, and this is what I was always freaked out about, because how is it that they clean up Gina Goulet's house like Trey Speedy? I mean, some of these crime scenes, Tara said that they have just finished opening up all of them now. How is it that they have Gina Goulet's house? Here it is. Here. How do they have this house? Here it is with the memorial at her gate. And it's already cleaned up by April 23rd at the latest. How is it that they got this done so fucking fast? But I would say that's because there was a vehicle in this, and they needed it all that to go away. So they identified him sitting in a strange car. Yes, that's their. I mean, it's just like lightning strikes. You know, it doesn't make sense. It's pure lunacy what they're asking people to buy. Just like they're asking you to buy that IP detected automatic security surveillance cameras, which set their time automatically, just like your Twitter does, right? Mm-hmm. Your Twitter, you can't change the time zone in your Twitter. It knows the exact time, just like everything else does. You plug in your computer, bang, it knows it. The surveillance photo knows the time. If it's connected to the internet, which in the case of the Cigar Hut, it is, because it was accessed by Ms. Marshall in Ottawa. That was how it got leaked. And the RCMP one, I really don't think that a department of, like a transport official weigh scale run by the RCMP is going to have its clock out, because it's got to be validated with people's logbooks. They have to match up. You can't have something that's 52 minutes off. That's not going to work.
And that's the thing too. If we're going on everything that we know already, then that's why they have to change the timeline so aggressively. Like, again, with putting what happened down at the what ended up happening down at the Enfield, why they had to change that, why they had to change the video at the cigar shop. It just really, all you had to do, and it wasn't difficult, is you just had to plug in how long it took him to get from the cigar shop all the way down to Enfield. And that alone could tell you that this drive is not possible. Not unless he was speeding, and there was no evidence that he was speeding. Like from the videos that we saw when he was at the cigar shop, the video there, he drove off at a leisure pace, probably going the speed limit, nothing more.
Yep.
I mean, he had no reason to either. Going, like, speeding around would have just drawn more attention to him.
He'd already gotten through helicopters, multiple roadblocks, and that is written. That same article that talks about Hunter Road, they speak about it. How there was multiple roadblocks everywhere. People were getting turned back. There was helicopters flying around. They had military in there. They had RCMP from New Brunswick in there. They had all kinds of resources at their fingertips, which they most say. So, Mr. Moneypenny, who do you think was driving the truck? Who do they tell you that died? Joey Weber.
And at least according to the RCMP, when it comes to where's Joey's body, they said that he was dragged over to the fire and then he was like burned with the flames.
Well, the RCMP hasn't said that. That was somebody, and I was trying to find that person's. I think that they sent me the message and they may have deleted the account, but I have to go back. I've got so many messages on Twitter. There was a man, and it is very hearsay, but the man said, I am friends with Joey Weber's cousin, who did not know Joey well. However, the cousin mother was good friends, like i.e. Joey Weber's aunt was good friends with his mom. And the aunt was told by the mother what happened was, well, his body was drug out of the tracker, put into the cruiser, and then lit a fire. But again, I mean, you're talking about a lot more time here. Dragging bodies around, putting them into back of cars, starting them on fire. Darcy said cop got in the truck. Look at Darcy's story. Like, seriously, you have to. I try and do this. I put myself into the shoes of what a person is saying, and she's saying we caught up to him again. Like, what is he driving 2 kilometers? Number one, per hour. How did she see him before in a silver tracker when the accident just occurred? How does she see a picture of 2 cars on fire? That's when she saw it. So why is you're saying that Mr. Wortman hung around that crime scene till both cars were on fire? Because we have pictures with 1 car on fire and multiple SWAT units there. So how's that work? And then she says she caught up to him again, and he's driving down the road and the police are chasing him in the silver tracker. Now, first of all, my question would be, how can you see the person's uniform if the cops are chasing him? Because that would mean the cops are in front of you and you're behind him. You're going to be behind him irrespective. So how do you see a fucking cop uniform from behind? You don't. Number one. Number two, the cops are right behind him, right behind Wortman. He's driving 1.8 kilometers down a straight road. He turns right into Gina Goulet's house. Where are the cops? Where are the cops right now? They're right on his ass. He goes to open the door. Bang, bang, bang. That's the end of Mr. Wortman. It doesn't add up what she's saying. I'm not saying, in the scheme of things, people's recollections get very fuzzy, and it clearly is a traumatizing thing to see something like that. Sorry, you have something you want to weigh in there?
What's that? Sorry. Oh, no. I think you pretty much covered it more or less, because what's happened with Darcy, like in her witness testimony, it seems inconsistent with how reality would play out. Mm-hmm. And then there's the case of the fact that Steve was talking to her and she seemed all hell bent to come on here, and then suddenly, just a snap of a finger, she stopped talking to him, and that pretty much fell through with everything. If there's any credence to what she did say about was at Shuby, I think that one thing, going back to our theory about like these cars that were on fire happen to be both Morrison's and Stevenson's, is the fact that she ended up saying something about how Stevenson was down at that point, and then the other cop, the male cop, ended up running up to her, and she was like, "Oh, my heart went out to him." It's like, it sounded like that was Morrison. As well as this is not standard procedure with what happened with what Morrison ended up doing, where he ended up getting shot, and then he sort of bailed to go to the hospital or something. It's not really the way you'd end up doing it, because you're supposed to stand by your partner. Either Stevenson would come to him to provide first aid and then help him get out of there, or he would try and meet up with her. But it wouldn't just be that he would then leave his post and start driving away in order just to get the hell out of there. Like, I could understand some driving away to get away from the gunshots immediately, but he wouldn't just leave Stevenson in the wind like that. You don't do that to your partner.
No. So this is her statement, and try if you can to put yourself in Darcy Sack's shoes. This is the best way to do it. So what is she driving up on? This is her actual pictures, Darcy Sack's pictures. So these are 2 cars on fire. We have photos of SWAT teams interceding on the vehicle and video interceding on the video when there's 1 car on fire. There's only 1 car on fire in this video. See? And there's already SWAT there. So is Mr. Wortman hanging around until both cars are burning? I don't think so. Then you go on to what she's saying. She came across 2 burning police vehicles and the silver suspect vehicle while out driving on 102. Quote, we were right behind the police car that was on fire. There was, so here she is. She's right behind it. She's actually across the way, but there was 1 officer we could see on the scene. Then all of a sudden, he went running towards one of the burning vehicles. We heard gunshots. That's strange because the other video, they say that there's gunshots and there's bodies on the ground in the other video. And there's only 1 car on fire. So I don't know about that part. Could just be tires or whatever. I had a feeling that something went wrong with the police officer's partner. The way he looked, my heart went out to him. Sack said they then turned onto the highway. That would be Highway 224, the 1.8 kilometers to Gina Goulet's house, and then saw the shooter in the silver car again. So she turns onto the highway. What? He's driving slow? Being chased by police. That would mean the police were right behind him. She said he was dressed like a police officer. How the fuck could you possibly tell that? Through all the police cars that were chasing him, and it's in front of her. You're thinking, sitting in the driver's seat, looking at the car in front of you. Can you tell if the person is wearing a uniform or not? Now you throw in a bunch of cop cars behind it. In between you and that vehicle. How could you tell? Then the car is driving 1.8 kilometers, the silver car, 1.8 kilometers with police cars chasing it. It now turns into Gina Goulet's driveway. Where are the police cars? They're right behind him. How does he get out? Shoot the dogs, shoot her, get back in his car, and come out a driveway that they're sitting at the end of. Am I sure that the 2 cars on fire is Darcy's picture? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think may even have, I think I've got it on my phone, the original tweet that she made. Where's my phone? So, yes, I'm not sure what you're, I can understand if you're trying to clarify things, or if, but I'm not too sure if you're trying to poo-poo things, because it's not going to work that well, because it doesn't fit logic. And she says the 2 pictures, the 2 cars on fire. But somewhere, wherever my fucking phone went, I don't know where it went here. I have here. Let's see if I can track it down. The picture of Darcy Sack's tweet. Or, sorry, Facebook post. It was a Facebook post. Oh, that's her. That's her photos. So, how does that work? I think I have a good maybe kind of a gift that way, that I can visualize things really easily by being able to put myself in other people's shoes. And it's not an easy thing to do, I don't think, for some people. And I'm not meaning that in a derogatory sense at all. It's just, it's a mindset that you have to be able to switch into. If you think about exactly what she's saying, where is she? What is she doing? What is she seeing? Where is she going? And what she's saying, I'm not calling her a liar. I'm simply saying that what she's describing, it doesn't match up. And I would just probably chalk that up to excitement, confusion. I have no idea, but it doesn't fit. I mean, how is she hearing bullet shots? Why is there a silver car there all of a sudden? Where was the silver car in relation to the SWAT team? So the silver car didn't come along until later in the point, because there's no SWAT vehicles also in any of her pictures. If you look carefully, she sent a few of them. It's not just these posts. She sent some other ones, right? To us, right? To Steve specifically, because Steve was good and reached out to her, because I don't particularly like talking to people I don't know. But she's saying she's going to be going up the ramp right here, because she's on the other side of the ramp. So the ramp goes around. She's going to be going up. There's a Y at it. The cop cars would be off to her right, and she is going to be apparently turning left onto 224, heading south to Gina Goulet's house. Am I making any sense to anybody? Or am I just confusing and boring people? Confusing and boring people. Okay. I don't know how to describe it other than, maybe there's some way to graphically do that, to illustrate it with a computer model.
I'm sure we can figure something out. Like, we can probably work on that together, just get a better imagery of it.
Well, some of this stuff, it's putting the computer, like putting an image to it, right? Just to describe what people say and where things are going. It's just like putting up the tweets, and he's saying this is what's happening, but that's what the tweet is saying is happening. Well, it doesn't match up. Just like they never deal with the silver SUV in the Twitter line. They never will address that one. And there's 18 minutes that somebody's flying around in a silver SUV. And they're not in Shuba-Kanati. They're in Brookfield, and they're in Milford. What the hell's going on there? That's another vehicle.
And in terms of the silver tracker, it could be too that I could see it being Joey Weber they chased if they actually thought he was in a silver tracker and everything. But what doesn't make sense with that is she says that he was wearing a police uniform. Joey didn't have a police uniform and anything, so I don't know if she missaw something or what's going on with her testimony, but there's a lot of questions in what Darcy Sack said. So it actually, I would say, she provided more questions than answers in this situation.
Right. She's saying that she sees there's something missing from this statement too, because she doesn't ever refer to the first time that she sees the silver tracker. What she does say is she turned onto the highway and saw the silver car again. That means that she saw it before, but nowhere in this statement does she refer to the first time she saw it. Where is it?
Hold on one second. Let me see. Because I think, I'm pretty sure Steve had at one point sent us some of the conversation between him and her.
Yes, and it was slightly different.
Let me see. Where was it? Was it my Twitter? don't think so.
I've got them here.
Okay, because I know he sent it to me, but I'm not sure where they are.
Let's see here. As if a
That's
shield was
weird.
over my car, my fiance and new baby were in the back. Oh my God, trying to get out of here. I don't know why, but I took the pictures out of panic. I'm crashing soon. Okay, so you're not bothering me. Okay, I think that was the last set. Hold on a second here. Where is it? My car 2S behind, I don't understand what that is. My car 2S, letter 2, and then AS. Behind Officer Heidi's when she was murdered. Okay, if she was murdered and there were 2 cars burning, who were the bodies in the first video? Question. The bodies that were drug out? Where's Blue Apple's enhanced video? You have, see, this photo right here shows you body on the ground by the wheel well. Let's see. By the rear wheel well of the car, you can see a body here lying on the ground. And there's a tactical force here. And there's 1 car on fire and 2 in her timeline. Now, that would mean that this tactical force left and somehow another body came along, Stevenson's, and got shot. So I don't think that's true. She didn't see Stevenson getting shot. No, I'm not calling her a liar. She knows a lot of the people, funnily enough, who were involved in this, who were killed. But I think, it's kind of small. Where is it? No, wrong way. I think that's it for her. There's some more. He has some more. She's just talking about CTV. I feel as if I should do a video or try and reach out to families to let them know they aren't alone. If I can do, you share it as well. I'm willing to tell the families what I saw that day. And yeah, and there's a lot of the tweets that I didn't get. She said that she's willing to do an interview, and then that's it. She disappears. He has had a contact with her a couple of times, and she said that her data or something is only good on some days. I don't know what that's referring to.
I'm not sure either.
Cop cars on fire on the bridge. Near Dean Martin's. Helicopters flying around. Apparently, a man is armed with a gun, had front row seats, but we left Buddy is shooting up people. Okay, so that's what she's saying. We left and they're shooting at people. Okay, and that doesn't match her CBC story. That does not match her CBC story. What she says is, I was following behind him. Well, what the fuck are you talking about? You either left him there or you're following behind him. And again, where is the again part? The again part is very confusing because there's some other time that in this interview, which they don't have the entire interview. Even the audio recording of the interview leaves out the part about the silver car. All she talks about is my heart went out to him, and then it ends. But it says Sack said they then turned onto the highway, saw the shooter in the silver car again being chased by police. She said he was dressed like a police officer. So I'm trying to see how she could see him being chased by a police officer, see him, see a uniform, and then actually he's able to go to her house, to Gina Goulet's house, somehow have lost the police in the 1.8 kilometers where there is nowhere else to go.
And it was also, if you're looking at where it was from Shuby, it was just a straight drive, too. There were no twists, no turns. There were no side roads or anything.
No. Google Earth it. Google Earth it. There's nothing.
I do have to jump off here in a couple minutes, though.
All right, man. We can wrap it up. But
I pull this up first.
Sorry?
I said we can pull this up first.
All right.
And then I'll take a look.
Okay, so here's Brookfield, right? Where is that? Fuck you. Go away. Here's Brookfield. So that was where the location of one of the tweets was. Confirmed Brookfield. That is nowhere near where is it? 102 Shubenacadie. Do you see Brookfield is way the fuck up north? Way the fuck up north. It's between Truro and Shubenacadie. So the Silver Tracker never became involved in the story until after Shubenacadie. So I'm not sure what they're talking about Brookfield, nor am I sure about talking about Milford. Is it Milford, the other one? What's the other one? Do you have the Twitter line there handy?
Not handy, but they did say Brookfield. They also did say Milford, I remember. Yeah.
Okay, so Milford is Milford, and here we have Milford.
They said he had turned on to the 102 from Milford in this Silver Tracker.
They say he's turned on to 102 in the Silver Tracker?
At Milford, I'm positive. Let me double check real quick.
Right. So that doesn't fit at all because he's on the 224 to go to Gina Goulet's house.
Right. Yeah, no, he couldn't. I couldn't see how he could be on the 102 because he actually would have gone past Gina Goulet's house.
And Gina Goulet's house is right here. Why is it not flying to it and putting a marker? Why is it not putting a marker on it? I believe that's her place right here. Is that right? Hey, turn.
Yeah.
Gina Goulet's house right there.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I mixed it up. They said they believed he was traveling on the 102 from Brookfield, and then they just say afterwards, like, confirmed suspect vehicle is silver Chevy Tracker, last seen in Milford. If seen, call 911.
Now, how is that possible? How is he in Brookfield? Because the Silver Tracker does not enter the story until for only this very, very short distance. You can see right here from this little farmhouse, and it goes up here. That's it. Do you see how short the distance is? Bill Caro's special manor, whatever, right here. This is there's the what do you call it? The gazebo, right?
Yep.
Okay, and the accident is right here.
About there, yeah.
Okay. So the Silver Tracker is only involved, and it's going down 224 from this distance. This is all Highway 224, straight highway, no roll, no big bends, no hills, no anything. And did I drive by it?
I think, yeah, you did.
It's right here. Very, very short distance. So how possibly could the police be chasing him and lose him in this silver tracker? Not happening. Like, you can drive it. I'll drive it right now. From her place up to Shubenacadie. It's fucking straight. And there's nowhere else to run. Bing.
Well, we know from the RCMP that he's apparently great at off-roading, so maybe he just decided to go right into the field, disappeared in some trees, you know.
Well, he's got the
They don't stop the
tracker.
car.
He's got the tracker, right?
But again, and even so, though, it's like if that had happened, like the police are still chasing him, so they would have seen him going off-road. But even so, look at how many trees are around here. I can't imagine that he's actually would have a good point to really just take a right or a left into the field.
Yeah, the police haven't indicated that he's driving through a field. Well, you're right. He wasn't walking. So I'd like to, if, you know, I'm hearing what you're saying, but how is he in the vehicle for 18 minutes?
No, I don't see how he could be.
Well, I'm asking Mr. Moneypenny because he's kind of having a, trying to wrap his head around this one. So why are they tweeting about him for 18 minutes when it's 1.8 kilometers? Not making sense. I can't drive faster. I wish.
There's not much you can do.
I don't know if you can or not. I'm almost there.
I don't think so. I think when you're down to Street View, you can only just keep clicking. You can only
I was
go
trying
so
to
fast.
research that if you can literally like plot a route and drive it. I mean, their fucking maps stink too. If you look at their maps, they have like 3 or 4 different routes on how to get somewhere. It's crazy. How are you? None of those maps are like a definitive route. This is the way he drove. It's like Google Maps is what they're using, right?
Yep.
And that's it. So I mean, it's giving you a slow route, it's giving you a fast route. We don't really know route, and this is taxpayer dollars at work. I mean, this is Seamus, super terrible techno shit at work, but. There's nowhere for him to go. I mean, like, we're right there now. I believe. This is what makes many and a game changer in our country. You want to know the Joey truck? Why do you think I had a special on the Joey truck? The Joey truck was a fucking non-starter, dude. I know it. I know it in my bones. I've read enough fucking articles. I've seen enough shit. Joey Weber, go and look how much reference you can find about Joey Weber. There is zero about him. He is an absolute... There's nothing about the guy. They just refer to him going to town to get oil according to somebody who's not even his family. And that's their only statement on Joey Weber. That's it. Here's nothing else. Here's the turn right here. And there's the place where Stevenson died. Right there. So how is he driving 1.8 kilometers? It takes 18 minutes. He's up in Brookfield. When Riley, he's in Shubenacadie. No. A silver tracker? The silver tracker, I think, unfortunately, was that. Somebody phoned in and they're like, I think I saw a policeman in a silver tracker, like a Silverado, an undercover, Suburban. And they're like, oh, I think it was a silver SUV. And they just were like, oh, silver tracker or something. Somehow they got this silver tracker in their head and they were chasing a silver tracker around. And then they saw one. And I think poor Joey Weber got it. But you get them in court, you can ask them, where the hell is the silver tracker? Where did it disappear to? If they wanted to clean up that crime scene, seriously, because all the other ones, I think I'm saying seriously all the time now, but how quickly does it take you to, or how long does it take to process a crime scene? These crime scenes took a long time to process. The one down there didn't take that long to process. I don't remember how long it was exactly, but Gina Goulet's house was processed très rapide, like super fast. Super duper fast.
It was within 2 or 3 days, I think. So what was it, the 23rd or 24th? They were already having that memorial at her place?
Yeah, 23rd or 24th. And in the picture, you can see the memorial and there's no yellow tape. And that was when the photo was taken. That doesn't say when they had it cleaned up by. But it was most certainly cleaned up by the 23rd or 24th. Because that's what's indicated on the article, right? And it's not that, and this is the only reference I've ever found to it. And it was just a, where the hell was the picture of that? It was just a short 2-second clip, not even that, in a story about, just generally about the the Nova Scotia shooting. And I just took a frame out of it because I was like, okay, well, that's Gina Goulet's house. I know that's what Gina Goulet's house. I don't even know where this fucking goddamn article is now. But that's it. There's just this one couple second clip, but it was written on the Goulet. Let's just try Gina. Here we go. Right? And it was just in this Nova Scotia rampage, sons hid during attack, family member says. And that's referring to over in Portapique. But they had a picture in it of Gina Goulet's house. Right?
Yep.
And here's the memorial. And there's no crime tape. There's no anything. Everything is all good. You also have cameras in here, which is interesting. Never see any footage of that, of course. And it's done on the 23rd or the 24th. They were using drones. I found pictures of them using drones to for crime scene investigation too. I don't know.
Like, you mean for the Nova Scotia shooting?
Yeah. I have video of it. I downloaded it today. Let's see. What was the newest thing I think I got today? Where was it? Is this listed by date? Where was it? It was in an article in, I probably still have the tab open, in It should be in there, but I don't.
It's buried somewhere in there. I'm sure you'll dig it up.
Debert residence. There was a good little map here. Here they are flying the drone. There's a picture.
Ah.
In Debert. But there's an actual video of it, I think. Is it in this? Yeah, here. I have no idea what they're using it for, but maybe it looks good. Looks like they're doing something. Seems rather silly. But RCMP collects drone footage in Debert.
All right, then. I mean, they did have one picture when they're in the woods, so I don't know if they were trying to get a better view of stuff in there, but What do I know?
They're looking for that's the other boot. A good one, Mr. Moneypenny. Yeah. You see, and that just seems strange. I mean, why is he hauling around parade boots? Parade boots don't go along with the costume he was wearing, which were tactical pants. Plain tactical pants. Parade boots are what you wear with the red surge. They don't fit. I think that might be a little bit of a non-starter too, but again, that's me speculating. It doesn't fit. But even then, you still, the whole point goes back to on the first, that's back, this is all back now at the first cluster. And in the first cluster, you have the gigantic hole. And the only proof that they can say to you about the gigantic hole is that somebody believes that they saw a vehicle driving through a field at 10:35. And frankly, if I was down there and I had a truck and I saw shooting and burning houses, I'm getting in my truck and I'm driving through a field. So that's a vehicle driving through a field to me. That's not what the McLean's article where there are policemen indicating that there was shooting like Clinton Ellison saying going on for hours. The 10:35 stuff is an absolute, that's just the RCMP saying, oh, we got there too late. It was too bad. He was already gone. We couldn't do anything. Rather than we were there and we let him stay there and he was running around crazy for hours and we did nothing to stop it. And that is negligence causing death. And that is grounds for a civil suit.
Well, hopefully something actually comes out of that. It seems like it's already started with, what was the husband's name? Nick Beaton, I think it was. Yes. Hopefully that started with him. Hopefully other ones will jump on top of that. Because that can turn very quickly into a class action.
Well, but frankly, Kage said to me on the phone today, because I was asking him, and I'm being anal about a couple of things, like the fact that he said the gunshots happened. We know that the gunshots happened first with the girlfriend at her, and they're saying, oh yeah, the girlfriend ran away into the woods, and then the first gunshots were heard. And I said, am I being too anal about that? And he said, you know what, Seamus? You're not being too, you can't be too anal. You be as anal as you need to be, because the stuff that you're going to come across might just be used. Lawyers could look at it, but that, I don't know, between all of this stuff, somewhere we have to get some kind of a central dossier of stuff where it's just, this is our theory and that's about it. And these are why we feel all the things. These are all the proofs for each and everything that we say. And then give that to lawyers and give it to press. Like the man from Mr. McLean, from McLean's magazine, like a few others. And you get them all on the same CC'd. They're all getting it. And somebody's going to be like, oop, Well, I don't want somebody getting that story. I guess I better report it. You know, I don't care what my boss says. I can't cover it up completely. Somebody's going to fucking take it.
We could, I guess in that case, we can start typing something up.
Well, because somebody, I can't remember who that was, but somebody sent me a bunch of stuff about power outage. There was a power outage somewhere in the Portapique region in Colchester County that night. And, you know, they were kind of really following that part of the storyline quite closely. And they actually did get in contact with somebody with the CBC and sent me the messages. And CBC was messaging them back and forth just about that, the power outage. And I think, frankly, if we have a fucking dossier that says, how do you answer the silver tracker, and you've got a computer model showing the silver tracker up here, and at the same time you've got the Shuba Canadi crash going on down here, what are you saying? What are you saying to us? Can't match up. What are you saying about the morning where there's all these shootings? Can't match up. I mean, it's a little bit more meaty than power outage. But
okay, well, maybe we can then get to work on that. We can, like, you know, type everything up, add in our photos, our articles, and everything, and send it off to them.
Somewhere we got to do it. Anyway,
all right.
I won't keep you. I know you want to go. You got to go.
Yeah, just I work in the morning, so I probably should head to bed.
Oh, holy shit. All right, man. Thanks very much for...
Don't worry about it. You know, often I'm up late anyway. I just try to make sure it's not too late.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and have a super night.
Thanks for having me on, by the way.
Oh, hey, buddy. Come on. We're friends.
Oh, of course. But still, always like to give the thanks.
Well, you've been doing so much hard work, you know. We're really lucky. Lucky to have all of us together working together, right?
Hey, we all make a good team.
All right. Take care.